play a big part in the James Cook discussions. We'll get to that here in just a moment. But today was an off day for the Bills. They'll get back to work tomorrow at St. John Fisher. Ahead of that, though, the team did announce the signing of defensive end Justin Hollins. And today is also the debut of the Bills edition of Hard Knocks. That'll be over on HBO, with tonight's episode premiering at 9 p.m. Now to the running back contract. Rams have signed Kyren Williams to 3 years, $33 million. That is good for $11 million per year. Williams also gets $23 million of that contract guaranteed. And last season, Williams rushed for just under 1,300 yards and 14 rushing touchdowns, and was also on the field for 87% of the Rams' offensive snaps. The Bengals, they're going to be playing some of their starters on Thursday night. Head coach Zach Taylor did confirm quarterback Joe Burrow and some other big-name players will play against the Eagles, but likely not past the first quarter. The Seahawks also expected to do the same against the Raiders. Bisons, they're in Worcester tonight against the Red Sox. Game time at 6:45. You can hear that over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. While in the majors, the Mets host the Guardians at 7. Yankees are in Texas versus the Rangers just after 8 o'clock. Then at 8:40, the Jays out in Colorado to take on the Rockies. That's your Padoc Chevrolet Sports Update. Padoc Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp.
It's nothing you did.
It's not you, it's me.
It's not you. It's you, but you didn't cross me.
And the Bulldog.
Why did I choose? Why did I just stay in school?
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Some questions just don't have answers. That would have taken hard work and vision, probably, for me to stay in school. That's when I was going to get out and start doing this. Here I am. Wow, look at that. Nate Geary, everyone.
Hello.
Nate Geary sitting in the saddle today, filling in for Mike Schopp. Today and Thursday, we've got Nate down off golf's Mount Olympus. To
the highest of highs,
to hang with us mere mortals, us mere Delaware Park members. It's good to see you, bud. How's summer treating you? Yeah, well,
that's it. It's going well.
Why did I ask? At least you didn't hold your foot up.
I can if you want me to.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't want you to do that.
Well, I just didn't know, what the situation was.
Yeah,
how you were feeling about it.
I don't know. How am I? Am I?
It's not you. You're more of a morning golfer guy. I'm dead of the afternoon golfer guy.
Yeah.
So
I also boat day. Finally, we had a boat day. I was as scary as it may sound. If kids are in the car, cover their ears. I was shirtless for part of the day Sunday. So
you get a nice.
I think I evened out.
This shirt hasn't come off in the sun. Well, it came off once in the lake during 4th of July weekend. Might have been definitely triple-digit days since the last time the chest and back have seen sunlight.
Well, it's nice to have you here.
It's good. It's good to be here.
And James Cook, everyone, holding in now.
Yeah.
And we have a comparable. We have a running back contract. How comparable it is up for everyone else to decide, along with us. Like, we can all decide whether we think it's comparable or not. Zach just told you the details on that. Kyren Williams of the Los Angeles Rams today at a 3-year, $33 million deal with $23 million guaranteed. One of the key stats in the whole thing, it's not just the yards and the touchdowns. He's on the field close to 90% of Rams snaps. He is a true 3-down back. He is not Saquon Barkley. He's not that explosive, but he is useful in every area of their game.
Very productive.
So he never leaves the field.
Yep.
And, he plays almost twice as much as James Cook plays. James Cook last year was 48%. I shouldn't have to force that, but whatever. It's a significant gap in playing time and usage, and that has always been really, to me, at the crux. I don't know what the Bills' stance is and their reluctance to get anywhere near really James Cook's asking price. But I think usage would be a good place to start. It would be my first guess that that's a thing that they would sit across the table and say, like, you don't play 50% of our snaps, and we like it that way.
Yeah.
But, we got to pay you in kind with that. We're not going to pay you a top-of-the-market contract because you're not a back that gets used that way. And, they're in charge of that. He might say, I could do it. And they can say, but we don't want you to.
Yeah.
We are good this way. We're good with you this way. And, like, that's how it is.
I also think, like, Jeremy and I were just in each other's comments about this, right? And I posted the last 2 seasons of yardage outputs for James Cook and for Kyren Williams, and they're very comparable. Kyren Williams has got a little bit better in terms of just total yards, carries, touchdowns, all that kind of stuff. And Jeremy was like, that Kyren Williams' rush yards over expected were far less than James Cook. And it's like, I don't think anyone's pulling that number out and using that as a negotiation tactic. Much like if an NHL player goes to arbitration, they're being judged on goals, assists, points, not wins over, expected or, goals over expected. 5 on, like, those are great advanced metrics as a, roster building tool. But I don't think, anybody's going to take certain, like a stat like that, an advanced stat, as like a negotiation tactic of this is why I'm better than this player. Right. The proof is sort of in the pudding.
I think I'm one guy. And I'm not like I've sat and studied Kyren Williams, but I think I would, if I were starting a team, if I had a game to play tomorrow and I got to choose a running back and those are the 2 dudes I can decide from, I think I might take Cook. Like there's more breakaway, there's more big play potential there.
Yes.
So in a way, I think it's almost fair to say or even argue Cook is the better player, the better athlete, the guy you'd want more, but the other guy does more and is on the field more. And that matters too, I guess, to the whole equation. And I don't know that James Cook could handle a workload like a guy like Kyren Williams is handling and be like actually on the field for, the majority of the football games. So I would always worry about that. And I'm just, I'm really curious to see there's been 2 days in a row now reporting that to me sort of flies in the face of what Brandon Beane sounded like to my ears yesterday morning with Jeremy and Joe. I did not hear all of his appearance on One Bills Live, but I doubt that the theme changed much. Tom Pelissero yesterday, and we got Diane Rossini today reporting that their information is that the gap between Cook and the Bills is not that large. And so, that sort of gets fans clamoring like, oh, if it's not that big a gap, why don't you just finish it off?
Yeah.
And I said to Sal yesterday, and I have no idea if this is right. This is not to question the reporting. I just wonder who's giving that information to Tom Pelissero and Diana Rossini, because I don't think
it's the general manager.
Right. No, it's almost absolutely not the general manager. And Beane, to me, doesn't sound like he thinks they're close. Now, he might just be playing cards that way publicly, and that's fine. That wouldn't be unprecedented at all for a GM. It's really kind of par for the course. But I would understand if Cook's camp is trying to get word out there that it's not that far apart, even if it is.
It is, yeah, right.
Just to get everything roiling here, right? Hard Knocks and just everything, all the attention, the pressure starts to change from, oh, don't pay a running back this much. Oh, his usage is this or that. If the gap doesn't seem big, I think the fans many times, even though they usually side with the team immediately, I feel like they would swing over to Cook's side like, oh, they should be able to get this done. So whatever external pressure is worth, I think that is being exerted on the Bills right now. Again, if I'm guessing about the source of those reports that they're not that far apart, being player-driven, agent-driven. But either way, I think it makes even someone who might be on the fence about it or not feeling a great deal of urgency about Cook could make you feel like, well, come on, just get it done. What are we talking about now? Are we talking about $1 million a year, $500,000? Are we talking about $3 more million guaranteed? What is it? Like, find a way to bridge it. But I myself still don't feel, I don't know, urgency really at all. I don't think Cook really has any cards to play. He's playing the only card he's got right now, I think.
And he played it weirdly late.
Weirdly, yeah.
And already, to show up for the first 8 days of practice and then to say, well, now I'm going to draw the line, and then for the reports from Rossini and from Tom Pelissero saying, well, maybe this is more of a, hey, we're close, and while we're close, I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I could potentially get hurt. I just think, yeah, it's weird timing. I saw a report from Adam Schefter that talked about a lot of league people think that the Kyren Williams contract had to happen first as sort of a template for where the Bills could potentially go with James Cook. I would imagine most people agree, not just people in Buffalo, but most people agree that if you were given the choice between Kyren Williams and James Cook, you'd rather have James Cook, and that means something. But stats also matter, and he's 100 more carries over the last 2 years, 86% of the snaps versus like 47%.
Right.
That's a big number. And listen, it's different offenses, it's different scenarios. It's hard to just do a 1v1, but I think it's way more in the realm of where I think the league views James Cook, where the Bills definitely view James Cook. And listen, I think I heard Joe Marino talk about this on his podcast yesterday. Give his agent the opportunity to go seek a trade. Go see what you're worth now.
Yeah, I did see. I saw Joe say that too.
And I kind of like the point, because you're going to wait a year, and you're either going to have the same or similar production this year. There's a lot of scenarios that can play out. It's not just one or two options or scenarios that can play out for James Cook this year. But go find out what you're worth right now. Go see if you can conjure up some interest in a potential trade, and go see what your potential contract extension with interested parties look like. And then see where you are, because I think right now how Brandon Beane likely views James Cook is probably not all that different than how the other 31 general managers in the NFL view him. And I don't think that there is a wide gap. I would say there's a closer gap between Kyren Williams and James Cook than there is between James Cook and Saquon Barkley. I think there is a far closer comparison point to be made there.
That contract. Look, I'm not eager to do anything with James.
I don't think they have to.
Right. That's kind of where I have been all spring and summer. I would cop to a bit of what I already just sort of described. Like, if it's close, here's another running back. It prompts you to want to leave your stance by the wayside and just, okay, team harmony, just get everyone together, Super Bowl or bust, and all that. But I don't know. I have not been on August 5th. I'm not that worried about James Cook not practicing right now. I'm not. I think this is a situation that I think will resolve itself if the Bills don't do anything. Because I don't think he has a move after this.
He's going to play. He's not going to not play games.
The only question is, what does it do to the team, if anything, right? Does it hurt the morale of the team? Does James Cook, does it change something about how he approaches his work and what he wants to do and all of that? But I'm not eager to do anything. Could I live with that contract? If the Bills announce during our show today they've reached an agreement on something close to that, 30 million, 35, somewhere in the ballpark, right, on a 3-year extension. Okay, I get it. I didn't need it.
Don't need it. Yeah,
I didn't need it, but okay, fine. Hopefully he continues to produce at the level he's produced at least last year anyway. The touchdown explosion last year has also been a thing that would worry me. Kyren Williams is 2 years running in the teens in touchdowns, I think. The numbers are 14 and 15, I think, the last 2 years. You just said you tweeted those stats. I saw them earlier. I didn't memorize them. But Cook has got the 1 year so far of his career where suddenly he was scoring touchdowns like crazy. And, he's only 3 years into his career, so it's not like there's a ton of a body of work to judge him on. But I would not want to buy a new contract for a player on what could be an outlier season touchdown-wise.
I think that's also something to consider, too, is if your opinion and, how much different is his value if the Bills decided in those red zone situations to turn around and hand the ball off to Ray Davis? Or if Josh Allen has 6 more rushing touchdowns and instead of 16, James Cook has 10. Again, it's sort of this weird balance between how do you place a numerical value to someone at the running back position? And, can you use at the wide receiver position? Is anyone pulling hairs and threading needles over, what the average depth of target for T. Higgins was? No, that's not really what happens. I don't believe that's what happens in these negotiations. So your value is as good as your value to the team that wants to pay you. And again, maybe the Texans in the offseason decide we're going to pay $15 million to a running back. We're going to pay $16 million to James Cook. You are more valuable to us than you are to the Bills. And I think there's a real argument to be made that he is the second most valuable player on the offensive side of the ball outside of Josh Allen. Like, outside of Josh, the guy who can generate the biggest plays the most consistently has been James Cook. Oh, especially definitely last year, but even the year before where he had more yards. But
last year for me was the year where he developed. I feel like
the inside running game.
Well, I think there was just more explosiveness. He ran away from people last year, and I felt like that was a new element to his game. I did not see him as a guy that was running away from people prior to last year. And I think the work he did in the offseason heading into the 24 season probably had something largely to do with that. But that's a facet of his game that is maybe the biggest value you've got. I know, in here I have been banging the table for 5 years about needing more speed on the team. And so it maybe doesn't sound like it lines up all that smartly to be banging the table for 5 years about a need for speed on the team and not be interested in paying the fastest guy. I mean, he's not faster than Curtis Samuel, but come on, like Curtis Samuel's not getting the ball in the backfield on this team. At least he didn't barely at all last year. And we thought maybe that was going to happen when he got here, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy enough to do it. So he's a weapon. He's a speed weapon. He's an explosive weapon. He's a house call on long runs. Again, just last year that sort of came to the surface in his game. But again, all that put together, I like him at the price he's at. I could pay more than that, but I'm not eager to do it. And I haven't been all along. So I'm sort of in a weird place because I'm not going to freak out if they get something done with him. I mean, good. Everybody agreed, and everyone is friends and happy, and that's fine. But I've never been worried about him not playing. I think he's going to play, and then I'm fine just kind of, running him out and replacing him with somebody else next year.
Yeah,
that's a little flippant. I don't know, but
it's hard to be in the, era we are in with running backs because we're back on the upward trend of the curve, where 2 years ago we were on the downward trend of the curve, and it bottomed out last offseason, or 2 off seasons ago before Saquon Barkley ultimately gets signed, and then all of a sudden DeAndre Swift gets signed, and a couple of players
Josh Jacobs got signed.
Okay, maybe this isn't fully dead. Like Josh Jacobs talking about, they're talking about a union within the union for running backs. I mean, that's where we were 18 months ago. And I think probably if the Overton window was 18 months later, the Bills would be in a position where it's like, yeah, sure, $8 million, yeah, whatever. Let's get this signed and whatever. We'll be the team that pays a running back $8 million. Who cares? But I also think that recency bias, not just for James Cook, but the running back position in general. You look at Philadelphia, they go out and sign the running back, and it's kind of the thing that gets them over the hump, right? Or at least conceptually, they signed the best running back in football. They went from being a team that lost a Super Bowl a few years ago and then now they win a Super Bowl, right? You kind of have a guy that you think is pretty darn good in-house, but you also haven't won a Super Bowl or gotten to a Super Bowl with him here. So if the argument is, well, look what the Eagles did. They paid a running back and they got to and won a Super Bowl. Well, I've had this guy on my roster the last 2 years, and that hasn't been the difference between us getting to a Super Bowl or even winning or even getting to one.
And furthermore, he's not even on the field on the most important drives of the end of the end of the AFC Championship game. Now you can again call out the Bills for managing their game day roster that way and making those choices. But I think if they trusted James Cook to do the things that they trust Ty Johnson to do, then they would have James Cook do them. And we would not be talking about 47% snap share. We'd be talking about something closer to maybe 65 or 70. And then, then I'm inching closer to that $15 million number if I've got a guy that's performing and he's on the field that much more. There's going to be, what is that? What would that be? Would that be like 15 or 20 more catches, maybe, right? More carries, just more production, more of everything. I doubt it would mean more touchdowns. It's hard for me to conceive of anything meaning more touchdowns for a guy that scored 16 last year, but still, that's the thing. It's maybe he feels like the Bills have, with intent, limited what, he would cost because of how they use him, but he's also not, 6'3" and 220 pounds.
That's right. And I also think this conversation is difficult to have because it sounds like we're both on the he doesn't matter, running backs don't matter train, when I do think he is going to be, if the situation gets to a point where he plays this year out and then he goes and leaves in free agency, he's not going to be someone that you can just easily replace. The production itself is probably replaceable, but the type of player he is, the speed aspect that you talked about, kind of seeing really develop and turn into, I think, a legitimate weapon for the offense last year, I think that's what people are more concerned about losing. I think there's a really good argument to be made that if James Cook doesn't play this year, which I think nobody's under the impression he won't, but let's just say he doesn't, I think there's a very good argument to be made that you could replace the production with two players. The problem is not necessarily the volume production, it's the big play potential. And they just don't have on the roster right now in their passing game, they don't have a Tyreek Hill. They don't have an Xavier Worthy. They don't have a
house call guy.
Their house call guy is their running back. And I think in the NFL, there are only a handful of those players that exist, right? It's Saquon Barkley, still somehow at his age and his size, it's still Derrick Henry. I mean, is there another one? Devon Achane?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, the speed there is elite.
So part of the volume stats you're using for or against your argument, it's almost too, you have to recognize what type of player is, and there are very few of his style or capabilities. You can replace the volume. It's not the volume I'm concerned about. It's just the big play threat. And, at the end of the day, that's the position I don't envy Brandon Beane to be in, but they're in it, and I don't know that this hold-in needs to mean anything. I was joking last Sunday when I was at St. John Fisher, and I was on the air. I said to Joe Marino and Anthony Prohaska from Cover One when I had them on, I was like, well, you guys want to do the obligatory, should we talk about James Cook for no, okay, we don't have to talk him. Fine. It just feels like we've all been trying to make a situation out of it that he wasn't really trying to make it out of, and then we all stopped talking about it.
And then he
acted. And then the other thing, too, is I wonder if the cameras aren't there for Hard Knocks, is this happening?
Mm-hmm. I wondered about that right away.
Yeah.
But that is not at all to say that I thought he would wait until 8 practices into camp to suddenly stop practicing.
They knew the cameras were going to be there a month and a half ago.
But, here we are. 803-0550 is the number. Let's get a call in here in this first segment. Dennis is first up today on WGR. Hi, Dennis. Thanks for calling. You're on the air.
Hey, guys. So, I've been listening to this for a few days. It's been something that kind of irks me a little bit. I agree with Bulldog. I think I agree with you 100%. And the one area that I would disagree with Nate is like being able to find the replacement, because of the player that he is you can find an explosive running back. What you can't find is a guy that can play 3 downs like Saquon Barkley and pass protect, which is probably the hardest part of that position to play, to be honest. I mean, if you're an explosive running back, you can play in the NFL, in this system you can replace James Cook, because you have other guys that can do the hardest part of being a running back. So that's just my opinion there. I mean, if you look at the starting running backs in the NFL, I think one of the things that can be easily overlooked is the pass blocking. But of the starting running backs, out of 32 guys, he's 31st in the league, only in front of Bucky Irving, who only started for half the games last year. He is an absolute liability in pass protection. And so when we talk about third downs, but you could even go to second down. When it's second down and 10 and he comes off the field, teams are scouting. They have a robust scouting department that know when one player's on the field, when one player's off the field, what the tendencies are when one player's on, when one player's off. If James Cook is coming off the field constantly on second and long and third and long, it just makes scouting a lot easier. There's just a lot that he leaves lacking. And if we just let him go, I feel like you can draft a guy that can be explosive and play on first and second down as long as you have somebody that can fill his spot, for third down. And, the first down guy is only, if you draft him next year, he's making $2 million. I just think from a GM standpoint, you just got to be really smart. I know they're trying to be, but I just don't think he's worth it.
All right, Dennis, appreciate the call. That's basically where I am. Like, I do like the player, and I like the skill set, used the way he's used, but I don't want to pay the amount he wants to be paid to use him that way. And I don't want to change how I use him. As I like the compliments they have. I think Ty Johnson is an excellent third down back at this point.
Yeah.
And I don't know about where Ray Davis's ceiling is. His ceiling might be Devin Singletary. I don't know.
Yeah.
But this team's results, like to your point early on in this conversation, this team's results have not changed.
No.
From Devin Singletary through Zach Moss for a little bit to James Cook, they run it more now than they used to.
Yep.
But even Cook is not necessarily running it more than Singletary did.
Not much.
It's still a timeshare. He's more productive than Singletary. He's the best guy they've ever had. But that doesn't mean I want to pay him a market rate contract.
Yeah, and it hasn't resulted in their offense. Their offense was third last year, second the year before, first the year before. Like, it kind of hasn't mattered statistically or in the win columns necessarily who their running back is or what style of running back. I think you can look at it and say, for me, I like the style that James Cook brings, which is my hesitancy to say, okay, well, Ray Davis is going to walk in and have the same production. Maybe he will, but it won't be the style I'm looking at this offense wanting to have back there. But, listen, we're talking Notre Dame running backs with Kyron Williams. There's going to be there's going to be like 3 really good ones in the draft next year, Julian, just saying.
803-0550 is the number if you want to get in like Dennis did. We're talking about James Cook again. There's a new running back contract in the league today. Kyron Williams of the Rams signs for 3 years, $33 million total, $23 million of that said to be guaranteed. Does that make you, all the more hot and bothered to get something done? Or are you still at, I don't want to pay that even? It's less than Cook is thought to be asking. Anyway, we'll get into that as we continue. Marcel Louis-Jacques, our old buddy, used to cover the Bills for ESPN.com. He's been on the beat in Miami now for quite a few years. We'll get him on with us at 4 o'clock. I'm excited about that. I know you and he go back, Nate, so I'm excited that worked out today. For him to be on, and then Sal will join us at 5 for his thoughts on today's version of the James Cook. I'm going to say story. I almost said saga, and then I would have had to pull the show over and find it. 803-0550 is the number. Nate Geary's in for Mike today. I'm the Bulldog, and this is WGR.
We've been living in sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go! All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over, it's about time. Oh, all sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. I want to go down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole of life. And now it's about to leave. Oh, roller coaster.
I think Cook is unique in his vision and his elusiveness, and that's captured in a stat. He was contacted behind the line of scrimmage at the second lowest rate of any back in football last year, behind only Jahmyr Gibbs. Ray Davis was 17th. And I think that's really important because not only is he a home run hitter, he helps keep this offense on time. Look, the Bills do not have a group of world beaters at receiver. They have an all-world quarterback, but they also have a dominant run game. And I don't like the idea of taking Cook out of this group because I thought he was exceptional last year, and you saw him really develop, particularly when it came to that vision.
That is the great Mina Kimes of ESPN talking about a guy we can't stop talking about ourselves, which is James Cook, that had sort of settled down. I recorded a FanDuel show with our buddy Andrew Filipponi on Friday afternoon in which I said the James Cook story has become a nothing burger. And by the time that aired on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon, he was holding in. And I felt kind of stupid because I thought the story was non-existent. Now it's a story again. I don't know. I don't feel stressed out about it myself. I think eventually he'll just come in even without a new contract. But maybe this Kyren Williams thing, there is some reporting out there that indicates that maybe this was a deal that the Bills, maybe more so the Bills side, were waiting to see, like, to prove to James Cook, like, look, here's a comparable player, similar age, all right, and
similar production,
similar production.
Class. Yeah,
here's here. Look at the numbers, and the usage point I think would tilt in the Bills' favor. So they waited out, and maybe now we'll get a deal. Again, a couple of different national reporters have indicated that they're not that far apart. I'm still skeptical about that because Bean, to me, just I don't know. I guess the first time he would go on the air somewhere and say, "Oh no, we're close," would be the first time
he's ever done it.
Because he just doesn't do that.
Every contract signing has come with I guess.
It's done now.
Yeah. Like the most you heard, or the most, like the biggest glimpse you got about negotiations was, we signed the other three guys because like we had to turn our attention there. We were all pretty close and realistic about where we were going to be. The other guy's not. Like the other guy is, we are not close.
Right.
And that has sort of been the most consistent message we've heard about these negotiations is they prioritize the guys that they felt wanted to sign contracts that made sense. And I will say this. It was going to come a time where Brandon Beane wasn't going, like, he's on if Howie Roseman doesn't exist, Brandon Beane's probably the second. I mean, there's such a gap between Roseman and everybody else in this conversation. But, like, the Benford contract looks like a freaking steal. The Rousseau the Ed Oliver contract looks like a steal at this point. So I feel like eventually there had to come a time. I guess I'm not surprised it's running back. But there had to come a time where he's on a Hall of Fame contract extension bender right now. And like eventually that was going to, and like you even heard him allude to, he's like, I've been doing this 9 years. It's the first time I've ever had a dispute where a guy's not practicing. And like that, I wonder how much that was in the back of his head in a lot of this, which was like, our guys don't get to this point. We lock them up early, but really from the start, if there was contention, maybe some of it was in the public and on social media, not with direct words, but more implications. If there was contention, it did sort of feel like it was coming from Brandon Beane. Like this guy's got to figure it out because, I mean, he's in la-la land
and to me, he still sounds very much like he has sounded the whole time. If we don't get, we don't get something done now. It doesn't preclude us from doing something.
We don't know if they've actually been close for 3 months.
Right.
Or 3 days or 3 hours.
I'm struggling with that. Again, I don't want to, I should stop just asserting it because it's going to sound like I know it to be true or something, but I just would not be surprised if that's coming from the player side. They're close, so that creates urgency to get it done. And it's on the Bills to get it done. And so I don't know. I don't necessarily think Beane would have sounded much different yesterday. But my vibe is still, they're willing to let him play it out. They probably are willing to do what they did with Poyer a few years ago, even though Poyer was a much older player by the time that it happened. Like you play it out. Go to the market. Like you're suggesting Joe Marino even doing that ahead of time. Like, let him go find out what the market is now even. But I think at the very least, I think the Bills would be willing to let him go test the market. And if some team out there wants to blow him away, well, okay then. You're probably not going to be in as good a situation. You might be getting asked to do more and you might break down, but whatever, you'll get the bag. And, I respect the guy wanting to get the bag. Like, I'm not... By the way, I don't know if it sounds at all like I am. I'm not the least bit upset with James Cook doing what he's doing. This is the game.
We're not haters.
This is how the game goes.
Yep.
So he should try to get what he can get. I'm over here looking out for the team going, don't go too far. Just do not go too far. Because at some point you may actually want to pay some receivers to be like better than just, everybody eats. But we'll see about that. 803-0550 is the number. Zoe is up first this segment. Hi, Zoe. Thank you for calling. You're on the air here on WGR.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Sure.
First and foremost, I'm not mad at what Cook's doing. I understand it. He's a dynamic player. He's a different player. Like from an offense and defense to look at it, like how Von Miller was back in the day when he played for the Broncos. He had that different bend to him that everybody else really couldn't do. James Cook has that bend where he can aim for the 6 hole and still break it out to the outside to the corner, and you still can't beat him to the edge. He have a good feel of angles, so you can seal the edge off, and he still could beat you to the edge and get 4 or 5 yards. That's something that's really cannot be taught, and that's something you kind of don't want to give away to anybody else. He showed up, when he could have still did his negotiation thing. And another thing people might not be looking at as New York State. They said they getting close. I heard a rumor they offered him $13 million. If he takes that $13 million with the New York State tax, he might end up with 10. And then he pays his agent, he end up with 8.5. So him going up higher around 15 to keep him in that double-digit market to have in his pocket seemed realistic. I remember Poyer talking about that, why he went to another team because of the taxes. Josh Allen got a big contract with the big headline. He got hit for $27 million in taxes. That's about to be more than James Cook's contract. So it's a lot of things to understand why he's going that way too, because a lot of money's still going to be taken away from him. And another thing that I thought about too was there's other players, big-time players, is willing to come here now. They like the culture. Players is leaving, and they love what they're hearing back from these players. And we have an MVP quarterback, Parsons. He want to come here. He said he'll take a pay cut. I think James Cook hearing that and other players want to come here, he's like, well, let me hold down and get my money before he get his money. You got the other players saying they're going to take pay cuts, and I'm sure the Bills is not going to hesitate to sign Parsons if you tell him taking a pay cut. So let me step back before he get his money before I will. And I think that played a little bit of a role too that we not looking at too. So
sure, yeah. So there could always be things that there definitely are things that we are not privy to. Thank you very much for the call. You raised some very interesting points. Look, the tax situation's a real thing.
Yep. But I'm not sure it's direct.
I'm not going to make. And I'm not saying that James Cook isn't thinking about it when he's asking for the amount he's asking for. I just don't think it's realistic to expect the Bills to overpay for anyone at this point. They're the Bills. They do not have to overpay anyone to come here anymore because Josh Allen's their quarterback. Everyone else is signing reasonable market rate contracts here, and Cook wants to be paid like someone he simply is not. We like him. He's explosive. We've already laid out all the stuff, but he is not a player that warrants being paid in the top 2 or 3 at the position at all.
Under Brandon Beane, I don't believe they have reset the market on any contract, except even quarterback. Josh did not reset the quarterback market. He was like the 2nd or 3rd highest, and he mentioned not wanting to be there and wanting to give the team some extra space and felt like he got what he was worth.
The first time they did Trey White, they might have, like for a day, and then maybe someone else signed right after him, like Jalen Rand. I feel like there was a day where Trey White was up there, but then other stuff happened.
I guess where I'm going with this, too, is this is twofold. I don't blame James Cook at all for being the outlier to say, well, I'm not taking a hometown discount. And because I know that Terrell Bernard, Greg Brousseau, Ed Oliver, Christian Medford, all these guys took probably less than they could have gotten on the open market. By the way, T. Higgins did that. T. Higgins could have probably gotten close to what Jamar Chase got on the open market, but decided not to take the hometown discount, what have you. Here's the difference. Here's why I don't blame James Cook at all for saying, I'm not going to take the hometown discount. He's probably not getting a third contract.
Well, that's right. Running back.
Whether it's here or anywhere. He's not going to ever be in a situation better than he is right now if Terrell Bernard in 2 years got cut. If Matt Milano ends up being the last year that he plays for the Bills, he's going to go get 9, 11, 12, 13 million next year by, the Chargers or someone. When James Cook's contract's over, or the Bills decide when it's over, if he gets an extension, that contract's going to be nowhere near 13, 14, 15, 16 million dollars.
Right.
So I think you have to also understand that the lifetime of these contracts for Christian Benford, for Terrell Bernard, for Gregory Rousseau at more premium positions are not going to look like this when they expire for James Cook. And that, to me, is probably more of a reason, less about taxes and more about, we don't get third contracts as running backs. We just don't.
Cook's opportunity to get the contract of the lifetime is right now.
Yeah.
Or next spring.
Yes.
Whatever. But at this age right
now. A 9 month
because
window.
If he gets Kyron Williams' contract, he's 28 when it ends. 29 as that season begins, I think. And nobody's paying that guy in the teens.
Nobody wants to pay 29-year-old wide receivers.
He'll be in the league if he wants to be, but he's not going to get that. The dough is now. This second contract for a running back is all there is to it, really, when it comes down to it. 803-0550. Thank you for the call, Zoe. Appreciate it very much. 803-0550. Marcel Louis-Jacques on the Dolphins coming up at the top of the hour. Sal Capaccio at 5. Nate Geary's in for Mike today. I'm the Bulldog. This is WGR.
the video. 1,000 people are watching it at one time. 8 people have clicked the like button, and that's offensive. In that community, no. Just please go out of your way, if you must, and just click on the thumbs up. Do we have the thumbs up? We do. Yeah, all right. Please click the like button.
Yeah.
It helps to grow. I believe it helps to grow the program.
Does it tell
the algorithms like it when you get more likes?
Does it reveal the identity of the person clicking the like?
Not on YouTube.
Okay, I'm going to click it then. Very cool to have you hanging with us here on a Tuesday. You picked a good day to join us. Hopefully you're here most days. But Nate Geary is sitting in for Mike Schopp today. He'll be here on Thursday as well. I've got Sal on Friday. Lord knows what I'm going to do tomorrow. You know what I'm going to do tomorrow? Tomorrow, I am going to, scene by scene, break down Hard Knocks for everyone who doesn't have HBO Max. That's what I'm going to do tomorrow. That's the plan tomorrow. How have you been? I feel like we've had this conversation in summers before when you're here filling in for Mike. Nate Geary, by the way. Are you a Hard Knocks? Are you hard? I have never really. I've seen. Obviously, I know what it is. I've watched episodes of it, but it's never been appointment TV for me. And
I would agree with that.
That's changing tonight. I mean, I'm going to want to see every minute of what they're doing. I want to
tell you, a few years ago, whenever the Lions were on it, was probably the season I watched the most. But it was never, it's 8:00. I got to be at home on my couch to watch this. It was, it's Thursday, and last week's episode is still up, and I haven't watched it. I guess I'll watch it now.
Right.
Tonight's going to be,
9:00 it starts. I want to see the opening credits.
TV will be on, and I'll be watching it. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you thought at all? We can maybe talk about this more after we visit with Marcel coming up at the top of the hour. Like, who is there? Sort of a bottom of the roster guy that you think is going to be like the guy that they sort of hone in on. Because I think they've done that in the past, like those stories, the guys that are on the bubble, that kind of thing. They create this like, the teammates love him. Look at this guy's story. Yeah. Oh, he got called into the office.
I think it could be one of the receivers. Shavers or Wilkerson. And Wilkerson seems to be the guy that has been getting talked about the last couple of days by the general manager on the station. It would probably be one of the receivers.
Yeah. My money is on Gosnell.
Yeah.
How well do you know his story?
I know it. I know some of it.
Tore here in a nutshell, because we got to get to a break. Tore knee ligaments in the Military Bowl at the end of the 23 season with Virginia Tech.
Yep.
Was back to start the 24 season. Like, tore his ACL, worked, like in the last game of the year.
Yeah.
Was back and played in 24 and went undrafted. He got that the first long pass of camp
when everyone was
to him.
Everyone was out.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like that story, I think, is going to work.
He's going to be our new Brandon Riley. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's my. There are other good ideas. That as soon as I read his bio, I'm like, oh, this is the guy.
Yeah.
And I saw him catch that pass. I'm like, oh man, this is perfect.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what's in store. I haven't heard. I've seen a couple teasers, but it's all like Josh Allen content. So we'll see if they even still, bother harvesting that field. But that's a part of the Hard Knocks thing is like finding the cool stories and the guys that are chasing it that aren't sure things. And I just feel like he's a natural.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Those other guys are good ideas too. And Wilkerson's been getting run.
He has, yeah.
Here, I heard Jer mention him on the air. I think on Monday, and then they're practicing, and I think he got some time with the ones.
I believe so, yeah.
All right, we'll hit a timeout here. Marcel Louis-Jacques on the Dolphins beat with ESPN is going to be our guest coming up right after this. So do stay tuned. Nate Geary in for Mike on the Bulldog. This is WGR.
Back extension today in the NFL. That could play a big part in the James Cook discussions. We'll get to that here in just a moment. But today, it was an off day for the Bills. They'll get back to work tomorrow. Ahead of this, though, the team has announced the signing of defensive end Justin Hollins. And then also tonight for the Bills is the debut of their edition of Hard Knocks over on HBO. Tonight's episode premiering at 9 p.m. Now to the running back contract. The Rams have signed Kyren Williams to a 3-year, $33 million deal that is good for $11 million per year. Williams also got $23 million of that contract fully guaranteed. Last year, Williams rushed for just under 1,300 yards and 14 rushing touchdowns, and he was also on the field for 87% of the Rams' offensive snaps. We also got some preseason news today. The Bengals going to be playing some of their starters on Thursday night. Head coach Zach Taylor confirmed quarterback Joe Burrow and other big-name players will play against the Eagles, but likely not past the first quarter. While the Colts quarterback competition is now entering its next phase. Head coach Shane Steichen confirmed Anthony Richardson will start this week versus the Ravens, while Daniel Jones will start next week versus the Packers. And then in baseball, the Bisons are in Worcester tonight versus the Red Sox. Game time at 6:45, and that can be heard over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. While in the majors, the Mets host the Guardians at 7. The Yankees are in Texas versus the Rangers just after 8 o'clock. Then at 8:40, the Jays, they are out in Colorado to take on the Rockies. That's your Padoc Chevrolet Sports Update. Padoc Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I got a speeding ticket in the mail yesterday.
In the mail?
Yeah. I think I'm going to just ignore it.
It's Mike Schopp
Where was this?
Spain.
and the Bulldog.
I think if I just lay low, I think I'll get away with it.
Not mention it on the air?
Definitely don't want to talk about it on the air.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog
I like the sound of this more and more as we go. I'm an outlaw.
on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Glad to have you with us on another. We've got some wildfire smoke, so it's not perfect outside, but it's been a pretty nice run of weather here in the old Western New York. Here we are pleased to be joined right now on the West Her Hotline by a good friend of Nate's and a friend of the station and the show. Spent a few years here on the Bills beat for ESPN's NFL Nation, now doing that same thing in Miami where he covers the Dolphins. He is, of course, Marcel Louis-Jacques. Marcel, it's Nate and Chris in Buffalo. How are things?
Oh man, things are good. Things are hot right now. The humidity is. Let's just say this trip to Chicago is coming at the perfect time, man, because it's. My windows inside the house are fogging up. Like I can't see outside. It's beautiful. It's almost like nature's frosted glass, but it's pretty rough, man. I want to get out of here.
All right. Well, glad to hear you're going to have an opportunity to get out of there.
Just remember this in like February. All right.
Yeah. This is fair. I was about to say, as it was coming out, I'm like, dude, this is like the last audience.
Who are you talking to? Who are you talking to right now?
This is like the absolute worst audience in the world to be complaining about weather to in August.
Yeah.
So sorry, y'all.
Yeah, we forgive you. No problem. On behalf of the audience, I'm sure they're fine. The Dolphins are a very interesting team to me this year, Marcel. Like last year at this time, I still felt like they were the team that was closest in the Bills' rearview mirror, and I'm not sure I feel that way now. I could be overreacting to a lot of storylines about a lack of discipline and kind of a rudderless ship and all that kind of stuff. What's your read of the overall? Like what it feels like from, again, 1,000 miles away here, like the Dolphins were trying to rid themselves of guys that might have been problems and try to empower the coaching staff and sort of take hold of things. But again, that's a read from far away here. What's the real story there?
Yeah, I mean, let's call it what it is. When one of your best players, who is also one of the best players in the league, doesn't respect the head coach, you're going to have a hard time. You know what I'm saying? Like you're going to have difficult. This is like, I don't know, Matt Milano openly not listening to Sean McDermott. Like it's not a perfect comparison, but you get what I'm trying to say. It's going to breed instability and tension, and that is what they're hoping for. The exact phrase that I heard from a team source was, and this is going to sound familiar to y'all, addition by subtraction. That's how they see this addition. Not necessarily Jonnu Smith. I think that was a legitimate gut punch for Miami. They just didn't want to pay him after 1 year like that. I'm sure that, they didn't want to pay him what Pittsburgh ultimately ended up paying him, but it's neither here nor there. I think what we're hearing right now from Dolphins players is really a lot of transparency, a lot of admitting that last year was the kumbaya stuff was bull. Straight up, Bradley Chubb told us they were lying to us last year, which odd because now it's like, okay, well, do we trust you now? Right. Like, are we supposed to believe this now? But from what we actually see and what we're able to see, it doesn't sound like nonsense this year. Little things. Jalen Phillips leading the edge rushers in between series, running sprints when they're not getting snaps. I asked him about it today. He said he just likes to get an edge. He likes to make sure that they're always doing something, that they're always working. Tua throws an interception the other day to Minkah Fitzpatrick. Tyreek Hill sprints 80-some odd yards to track him down. Think like DK Metcalf and Budda Baker from a few years ago. It's a little thing that, you might roll your eyes at from the outside, but inside, you're saying, oh, that's the kind of effort that this guy is giving in August. This is the same dude who needs to rebuild his image after effectively quitting on the team in January. Okay, maybe they're getting somewhere. Maybe they're onto something. But that's obviously that's culture inside the building. Then you got to look at the actual talent. Offensively, this is more or less the same team. They beefed up a little bit on the offensive line. They're hoping that it makes a difference. Patrick Paul taking over for Teron Armstead, passing that test with flying colors in practice so far. Jonah Savaianaya is probably going to start there at left guard. That's why they picked him in the second round to throw him in the fire. Offensively, they should be fine. Front seven, they should be excellent. It's that secondary that we're still learning about.
Yeah. I obviously want to get more into the roster, but I want to ask you while we're on the I started you on the culture portion of this conversation. How much has Mike McDaniel talked about needing to adjust and learning how to effectively lead a team? Because I in a vacuum, I loved his style coming in, but I often wondered, how will it really work with a team full of football players, a room full of football players? Certainly some guys would really dig his vibe, but I feel like there was a chance that some guys would think like, what's our head coach all about here? Has he talked about needing to adapt, or is that still kind of a closed subject?
Yeah, that's something he's a little vague about. It says, like in anything, everything is a constant state of learning, right? A constant state of constant education. But he kind of told us, like, all right, I clearly have to adjust from just posting fines when people are late. Like, I can't just say, like, this guy's late, here's your fine. Like, it can't come from him. And that's kind of the message, the overarching message here. It's about accountability. The players have to, it's their team. He said that multiple times. This is the players' team. Obviously, like, you want your coach to be able to coach, to steer the ship, to do that, but, like, this isn't The Sims. He can't control every little action that they do. At the end of the day, they have to want it. They have to hold each other accountable. They have to listen. They have to be on time. So I think, like, he kind of I don't want to say pleaded because that sounds a little weak, but he stressed, let's say, to team leaders, guys like Jalen Phillips, like Zach Sealer, Aaron Brewer, Jordan Brooks. You guys have to hold each other accountable. There can be no lapses. Like last year, there's nobody that is chewing Jalen Ramsey out. But this year, Tyreek and Jalen Waddle complain about sprints, and Jordan Brooks gets on him after practice about it. Like there's just, like I said, little changes here that I know we want to say it's got to be the coach, but the coach wants it to be the players. He wants it to be the leaders because it feels more organic that way than if you're just kind of like saying yes sir to the guy in charge, and you don't really want to do the dishes. He wants them to want to do the dishes.
Okay, I think it's a really good. It's a pretty good analogy, Marcel. I guess
who
part
wants
of this,
to do the dishes?
Nobody does.
But you feel like it's the right thing to do, so you do that.
That's right.
Yeah, that's it.
I think I'm not going to say that maybe the conversation internally and within the Dolphins fan base is different than this, but I think from the outside looking in, especially from the national media, you don't hear a lot about Chris Grier's involvement in this, which this is a guy that picked this roster. I thought 2 years ago that towards the end of the season and into that offseason, the way that the players were talking about Vic Fangio when he ultimately left and went to Philadelphia and, by the way, won a Super Bowl, something that to me was maybe the biggest red flag that I had ever seen from players like Jalen Ramsey, who is a veteran in the league, who's been outspoken over the course of his career. That's not new to me. But to sort of hear the criticisms, the open criticisms of, well, who the heck's Vic Fangio when he's one of the best defensive coordinators of the era. I always felt like that was the red flag to me, that I don't know that this is a roster that's built the right way. And, you know, maybe they're more talented than other teams, but I just wonder from your perspective, do you think that the criticism for Mike McDaniel should be equal or greater to than the criticism that Chris Grier's gotten, because he's really the architect of these players that you're talking about now, taking multiple seasons to figure out that, like, your head coach can't be the one that holds you accountable. And Marcel, like, that's a concept you learn in varsity in high school. Like, the coach leaves and it's up to the leadership council. And that to me, that's not something you should be learning into year 4 of your head coach.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Like, there is a sense of like, hey man, this is year 4. Why are these very basic principles still being taught? But it is, I think, a byproduct of bringing in the wrong players, of bringing in players for the wrong reasons. I like Chris Grier. I respect Chris Grier. I will criticize Chris Grier in this aspect because the team was built like a Madden roster for a second there, for a couple of years there. It's tough when you bring guys in and you make them the highest paid players on your team at the expense of homegrown talent leaving. So this is great, and Bradley Chubb has been a positive presence in the locker room. I'm just using his contract as an example. It's great that you have a Bradley Chubb, but then you lose an Andrew Van Ginkel. Like, it's great when you bring in Jalen Ramsey, but then all of a sudden you're losing Javon Hollins, and you're losing Christian Wilkins, and you're losing Rob Hunt, and
Yep.
So like it is a tough way to build. It's a tough way to build. You've got mercenaries sometimes. Like you run the risk of adding mercenaries to your team instead of guys where, okay, this means something to me. Like, this is the team that drafted me. This is my spot. This is my organization. So I think they ran into that issue a little bit there. I think they have largely cleaned that out. I think that they believe this group is bought in. I think Tua Tagovailoa has taken a bigger step, a more vocal step as a leader. That's something that I don't think is particularly natural to him. I think it's something that it has taken him a few years because of the Brian Flores era to get used to doing and to be comfortable doing, and to accept the fact that, like, I am a leader. Like, guys do look up to me. Like, I am one of the best players on this team, if not the best player on this team. Like, I need to be. I'm the guy people are looking to. I have to come through. I have to deliver. So, like, it's don't get me wrong here. You're right in the sense that, like, dude, this is year 4, man. Like, you can't be asking players to be accountable. But at the same time, like I said, this isn't The Sims. You can't control every little thing they do. At some point, the responsibility does fall on players to behave. In a sense, like it falls on players to do the work. And from everything we're being told this year, they're doing the work. I want to see it. I believe it when they're going to Buffalo and win a game, or I'll believe it when they win the division. I'll believe it when they don't fall apart in December. But they're speaking it, and everything it's passing the eye test right now in August.
So is that, would you say, maybe all of the reasoning of trading a Jalen Ramsey? I mean, it's a player they extended. It's a player that I think they looked at the position and they traded. I know, and Kohu obviously gets hurt. Different. I mean, he's the slot guy, but like they really thinned out a position that was really thin behind Jalen Ramsey, and now obviously with injuries, it's even more thin. Like, is the Jalen Ramsey trade maybe like the line in the sand then for the organization?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of that's a message from McDaniel. It's a message from Grier too. It's like, dude, if you're not with it, you're getting out of here. Like, if you're not on board, we will get you off. we will get you off board. You will leave the ship. So, and while we're talking, just going back to Chris Greer and this Jalen Ramsey trade, I think that's the best move that he has made since he has taken over as general manager, is flipping Jalen Ramsey for Minkah Fitzpatrick. Whatever you think about Minkah's peak of his career, maybe he's at it, maybe he's, it's on his decline, whatever. But to get a player of that caliber for a guy who the world knew you wanted to trade. We did an exercise at ESPN, some of our insiders, what do you expect in return? And I had to choose the offers. I was getting 7th-round picks. I was getting pick swaps. I saw a 4th-round pick from Ben Solak and said, oh, my God, that's the best it's going to get. Absolutely, I'll take it. So to get Minkah Fitzpatrick back, I thought was pretty impressive, not even just from an on-field standpoint and from a need standpoint, but culturally, this is a guy who is going to go to work. He's going to put his head down, and he's about business. It's not going to be a distraction off the field. He's not filming this, that, and the third. He's not hopping on streams and on Twitch. I think that's the kind of player that they're hoping for, that kind of cut of player down here. But, man, look, Jalen Ramsey, I've said it before, they see it as addition by subtraction. I have no doubt he will probably be successful in an organization like Pittsburgh. No-nonsense head coach like Mike Tomlin, a guy who he really respects and can see eye to eye with. I think Jalen Ramsey is the kind of guy who you're not going to get his all unless he feels challenged. And not challenged like I'm in your face, like challenged like he has to try, like he has to use his brain. We could see it in press conferences. We see it on the field. That's just kind of how he's built. He's like the really smart kid in your class who doesn't try unless he's intrigued. Doesn't try because he thinks the material's too easy.
All right. Marcel Louis-Jacques on the Dolphins beat with ESPN on the Western Hotline with us for a few more minutes here. You mentioned Hill and Waddle. Hill has been on a bit of a sort of, like mending fences type of deal, and maybe chiefly with his quarterback. How would you assess the relationship right now between Tyreek Hill and Tua Tagovailoa?
I think Tua's comments the other day were deliberate, right? Like that's what I'm talking about when he's coming into his own as a leader, as a person who, is going to hold players accountable publicly, privately, whatever it takes, no matter who it is. I think it was a display to show that nobody is safe from this. Nobody's exempt from this new culture of accountability. But don't let that confuse you with they were pissed in the moment. They were pissed when it happened. Guys weren't happy. This is the only time, guys, that I have seen a player quit on the team and remain on the team.
Yeah.
I forget who it was who tried to pull this in San Francisco, and they crushed him as soon as there was a microphone held up to them.
Campbell, right? The linebacker?
Yeah, Devondre Campbell.
Yeah, Devondre Campbell, yep.
Yeah. They were the Niners were they held on to him so that he couldn't go play anywhere else. That's the kind of response you usually get when you pull yourself out of a game, and especially when you go to the media talking about maybe I could play here, maybe I should be somewhere else. I don't know. We'll see. I'm out. He did have to rebuild. I know Tyreek. There's some things he does where you're like, oh, that's Tyreek being Tyreek, and the play typically helps mask some of that behavior. But when you're not necessarily performing on the field, and then you pull that, he had some work to do. And, again, this is one of those, by all accounts, he is doing the work. There's been a couple times out of 11 practices where he's late to stretch. I don't know the reasons why. I don't know what he's doing. This is a behavior that was very, very typical throughout the past 3 seasons, to the point where we have to ask PR, hey, is Tyreek healthy or is he missing practice? Because sometimes he's just not out there during media sessions. But for the most part, he's on time. He's certainly engaged. That wrist injury has healed. He's catching the ball a lot better. I think he's doing the work. And, again, we're going to have to see it. It doesn't really matter that much in August. I want to see it in November, in December. And, they've got a tough stretch there toward the end of the season that's probably going to make or break. They get Pittsburgh, they got Cincinnati, they've got Washington. There are games that are going to make or break their season late in the year. I want to see what he does when adversity hits, not just when it's hot outside, but when there's real adversity pertaining to your success as a team. But he definitely had some work to do, and by all accounts, he is doing the work.
I know last year was kind of a mess, but is he still? Is his play still capable of masking whatever oddities there might be in his preparation or anything else that you've alluded to here? Is he still Tyreek Hill that we remember torching the Bills?
Yeah. I think he was just voted 47 in this NFL Top 100. I think that's too low. I think it's too low. I think he might not be the number one player in the league like he was entering last season, but I think that there were enough extra external factors, extenuating factors to write last year off as an anomaly. He did tear a ligament in his wrist in August and played through it instead of getting season-ending surgery. That would explain some of the drops, some of the lapses of focus, some of the absences from practice. He did have to play with Skylar Thompson and Tyler Huntley, and there's a third quarterback whose name I can't remember, but that kind of makes my point for me. They did have to play with the motley crew at quarterback for a lot of the season. Tua was not healthy. That chemistry never really set. So there was enough going on that I think it's the reason why Dolphins in the building have not written him off. They do believe that he's going to bounce back. I think they're going to get the ball in his hands in a number of ways. It's not just going to be Tyreek go deep. I don't know if I'm at liberty to say what we've seen in practice, but I think they're going to be creative in how they get him the ball in space. I think you're going to see a bounce back you're going to see a typical Tyreek Hill year this season. He's even and when we talk about doing the work, you could even see it. So this is my fourth year covering Tyreek. He is noticeably slimmer this year. Not just slimmer like, oh, he's skinny, like healthy slim. Like, oh, you've been taking care of yourself this offseason slim. You're not just eating Chipotle every day like he's admitted in the past, in the offseason, and then using your athleticism to get by. You're studying, you're taking notes, which is a bad thing to admit to doing for the first time in your fourth year in an offense, but late is better than never.
Let me ask you one more thing here, Marcel, before we let you go. Obviously, the injuries to the defensive back, their cornerback room, really has been depleted. And I've got, my buddy Brett, as you know, Brett, he's a big Dolphins fan. He keeps telling me about this is Cam Smith's year. Where are you with this defensive back room? And is it an NFL room right now? Or can it be an NFL room if all else goes correct, especially up front in the front seven?
Can I tell Brett something on radio, live on radio?
I think you could.
It's not Cam Smith's year, man. It's not Cam Smith's year. He's missed the last 3 practices. He's already hurt. We asked Mike about him the other day. The first thing out of Mike's mouth is, we're waiting the day where he can stay on the field. Like, this is the guy who can find something nice to say in any situation, and he can't find something nice to say because the guy's not available. This was the easiest path to play time he has had since maybe high school, man. And he wasn't starting. I can't say which group is which, but he was not starting before he got hurt. I think he's a legitimate cut candidate this summer, which is, it's tough. I don't like saying that. I don't have joy in saying this guy is not living up to expectations, but Chris Greer challenged him in April. He said, we can't hold his hand anymore. He has to go. We need him this year. And I don't know that that's what they've gotten from him straight out the gate in training camp. So, I think that's going to end up a miss for Chris Greer. But the good thing is he's missed on high round quarterback or corners, but he keeps hitting on the UDFAs. So Kader Kohou, UDFA, was a big hit. Torn ACL is a huge blow.
Yeah.
Another guy, Storm Duck. It's not going to be hard to remember that name. Storm Duck, I think, has a bright future here in Miami. I think he's caught the attention of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They've kind of taken him under their wing from the opposite side of the line of scrimmage. I think they see a lot of promise in him. The team does as well. It is the first week of August, right? We've known what this cornerbacks room looks like or is going to look like for months now, and there hasn't been any dramatic change to it, right? So what does that tell you? That tells you that the front office, that the coaching staff sees a little more than the public does with this room. I've had this thought watching them at practice, like, you know what? Maybe the room isn't bad. Maybe it just doesn't have the name brand recognition we're used to seeing out of the room. It doesn't have the Xavier Howard, the Byron Jones, the Jalen Ramsey, the Kendall Fuller in it. But it has some talent. And then not to mention the free agent, the veterans that they did add, Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton said himself he was surprised he was still on the market. This was a double-digit game starter last year. I think he's a solid starting option at nickelback. Jack Jones, if he can keep it together off the field, Jack Jones is a ball hawk. Jack Jones adds that dog element that I think they need in the secondary. These aren't bad corners. So I think it's one of those where they're going to be a little bit better than a lot of us gave them credit for all offseason. But, don't get me wrong, they are still fairly unproven.
Marcel, we're already ridiculously late, but really quick. Realistic expectation. Chasing down the Bills for the division, wild card, like what's real?
Wild card. This is the Bills' division to win. And I'm going to keep it succinct because I know I went long here. This is the Bills' division to win. I refuse to believe anything other than that until I see it. I'm done. I tried it a couple years ago. I was wrong. Like, I don't care if this gets clipped and we're at a point where Dolphins fans can't even argue with me, man. Like, Bills are the Bills.
Yeah.
Bills are the Bills.
The time shot was not a shot at you going long. I miss cues every segment, so it was not at all directed at you that we were running late.
No, my mouth is dry, so I know I've been talking.
My own fault. No, we love it. It was great. It was a great visit. It was nice to catch up with you, and hopefully we can do this again once the season gets rolling.
Absolutely, man. You know how to find me.
All right.
Thanks for having me on.
That is Marcel Louis-Jacques, ESPN, NFL Nation, Dolphins reporter.
By the way, 8 is the magic number. 8 picks before Osiris Torrance. The Dolphins took Cam Smith, who he's talking about them potentially cutting.
Yeah.
And Osiris Torrance is one of the better young offensive guards. It's not like they need guard help either. So,
no big deal. Yeah. All right. Thanks again to Marcel. We got to take a break because I already said we're late. Nate is in for Mike. I'm the Bulldog. We'll talk more about the Bills and James Cook and contract extensions and maybe the Dolphins a little bit because we know Nate loves to do that too. I am the Bulldog, and this is WGR. Uh, 803-0550 is the number. Let's squeeze Luke in here in this first segment. Hi, Luke. Thanks for calling. You're on WGR.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Just wanted to kind of get your opinion on Ryan Reeves. He's on waivers. Maybe we bring him in. He's 2 hours away. Sell some tickets. Elevate the team a little bit. What do you think?
I think that's one of the worst ideas I've ever heard. Thank you for calling.
Let's get Michael in. Hi, Michael.
Hello, I would like to talk about Kirk Cousins. I don't know why he's the backup for the Atlanta Falcons. It's the stupidest thing since the World War.
What? Okay. I mean, I wanted to talk about Kirk Cousins because, like, I'm at work. Otherwise, I don't really see why you wanted to. But okay, maybe I missed something. Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is on.
Off day today for the Bills. We'll get a word on the team when Sal Capaccio joins the show. It's about a half hour at 5 p.m. But coming up tonight for the Bills, it is their edition of Hard Knocks. It premieres at 9 p.m. over on HBO. A busy day in the NFL. The Rams have signed running back Kyren Williams to a 3-year, $33 million contract, good for $11 million per year. Williams also got $23 million of that contract guaranteed. This deal could play into the James Cook negotiations, as last season Williams rushed for just under 1,300 yards and 14 rushing touchdowns. Williams also was on the field for 87% of the Rams' offensive snaps. NFL suspension comes down for Vikings wide receiver Jordan Addison, the first 3 games of the 2025 regular season for violating the league's substance abuse policy. And then we got plenty of quarterback news for the preseason. The Bengals going to be playing some of their starters Thursday night. Head coach Zach Taylor confirmed it. Quarterback Joe Burrow, among other big-name players for the team, will play against the Eagles, likely, though, not past the first quarter. The Colts QB competition is now entering its next phase. Head coach Shane Steichen confirmed Anthony Richardson will start this week versus Baltimore, while Daniel Jones will get the start next week versus the Packers. And then Mary Kay Cabot is reporting that the Browns are set to start Shedeur Sanders Friday versus the Panthers, with Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel both dealing with hamstring injuries. It's Padoc Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Padoc Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Again, I'm not necessarily advocating for the Bills meeting his demands, but I also can acknowledge that this offense is optimized to have James Cook as part of it, and they wouldn't be as good. I mean, the Bills' offense is efficient. It's not explosive. And James Cook is the most explosive thing that this offense has. Now, we certainly hope that could be a little bit different this year with some of the new pieces. But the guy that gave the explosive plays of this offense was James Cook, and that'd be a big piece missing.
That is the mighty Joe Marino, a regular guest here on WGR. I think Wednesdays are his time slot. Locked On Bills and lots of other stuff. He's doing a podcast with Jerry Ostrowski and Jeremy White from our morning show as well. That's, I think, a weekly thing as well. Anyway, talking about James Cook and no lies detected. You said earlier, like and a lot of fans have been saying this all summer and even going back into the spring. He's the next most explosive. He's the next most dangerous person in this offense after Josh Allen. I wouldn't want to get to value because the tackles and whatever, but like you want big plays on offense. James Cook is your next best bet after Allen, and that's because the receiving corps just doesn't really feature a guy that has that, at least not yet. I mean, we'll see if someone takes a step in that department this year, but Cook has been it. So
we're going to really test the depths of everybody eats. Is it just receivers, or is it also running backs?
Tight ends.
Right. I can.
They're included in the receivers. Yeah. Before we get away from the conversation we just had with Marcel Louis-Jacques, and thanks again to him for his time on the Dolphins. Where are you? I know you have it's almost a cottage industry. It's a part of your brand.
Yeah. Let me get my pulse really quick.
It is I'm ready. Yeah. Getting after Miami fans on the social media sites. Where are you at on that? Because I'm expecting Mike McDaniel to get fired. I don't know if he'll get fired in season, but I just think that the implosion is incoming. I think anytime you hear this stuff about, we're cleaning out the bad apples, right? There's going to be dudes still on that team.
That happens when you have a new regime.
Right.
Not going into year 4, which is what we talked about.
I think it's very likely there's still guys there that are like, why did we trade Jalen Ramsey? He's good, and this coach with the sweatpants, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to work. I appreciate the effort, but it feels like desperation at this point to me.
I am surprised by a few things with the Dolphins. A, that Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer are both back. B, that I thought the trade of Jonnu Smith made less sense than the trade of Jalen Ramsey. Right? I thought for the first time they had an offense that featured a player inside the hashes, which is where their quarterback is best at throwing the football. I have a Dolphins buddy, Elf, who we get into it all the time. And whatever the Dolphins do, the Dolphins are always right, even though they have the longest playoff win drought outside of, there's a drought happening in New York. They haven't been to the playoffs. Dolphins haven't won a playoff game since before 9/11. So, I not everything they do is right, just saying. But the whole idea of they didn't want to pay Jonnu Smith, so they traded him, and he was kind of a part of that Minka Fitzpatrick deal. I think I actually agree with the framing of the Fitzpatrick and Ramsey swap. I agree that they got way more for Ramsey than I thought that they would. Mm-hmm. I think that Minka Fitzpatrick's in the same place, younger, but in the same place in his career that Jalen Ramsey is, which is on the wrong side of it. And it really showed last year. The last 2 years, he has 2 interceptions. This is not a player that is one of the best safeties in the league anymore. In fairness, Javon Holland, they thought was that, and then he kind of tapered off and then got paid elsewhere. But, to me, you finally had, I thought, a sustainable short passing game with Jonnu Smith, and then they traded him, and then they were like, we'll just get
Darren Waller,
who hasn't practiced yet, because who would have known the guy that retired because he didn't want to block anyone, which is literally what he said. I was playing fullback. I had to block people? Yeah, I'm retiring. I'm done with this stuff. It's so many puzzling decisions after puzzling decisions, and did they end up signing Noah Fant? Did that happen? No, I think he signed with Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So they didn't even get him. That would have at least been okay, I could see. I think that the conversation and some of the stuff that I've heard about them in some of the remarks that McDaniel's made about wanting to be a more physical football team, okay, well, that just means to me, you don't know who you are. You've built the roster. You want to be more physical. You don't have the dogs for that. You don't. You don't have a physical. They were a finesse football team. And that is who they've built towards, that's, to me, why the head coach is still there in the first place. Because his system's the fits a finesse system.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have the dogs for that. So I think their secondary is a disaster. I think it's the worst in football. Jack Jones, there's a reason why he was available. Mike Hilton, they have a defensive backfield that it would have been great in 2020. But it's not like they're in trouble overall in their defensive backfield. And yeah, their front seven's good if Jalen Phillips doesn't miss 14 games like he has the last 2 years, and Bradley Chubb, who didn't play any games last year, plays to the same that they gave him that crazy extension to. So, like, all of this to say,
I kind of like Chop Robinson. I just want to say
I like Chop Robinson a lot, actually.
Not that I shouldn't have interrupted you.
They get a second-round pick at guard that they're going to plug in, and maybe he's really good. Maybe he's Osiris Torrance, and maybe he'll be great. But you lost your best offensive lineman. You have to hope the guy you drafted in the second round last year can be good. And I don't know. I think that over under 5.5 weeks, I could absolutely see Mike McDaniel getting fired by week 6 or 7, and the thing just becoming toxic. And then, to me, part of the reason, I think there's 2 reasons McDaniel's still here in Miami. First and foremost, it's because I don't know that any other coach is going to walk into the situation and saying Tua is my franchise quarterback. What coach, like, that offense can literally only be ran by Tua. They They kept the guy in the system for 3 years. He walked in, he was like, I don't know what to do here. This doesn't, like, they have an offense that one guy has the keys that fit and can play it. Who are they bringing in? Like, that's my question. So I think the main reason he's still there is because they paid a boatload of money to the quarterback that can only run his system. And then secondarily, I think that they were probably from the ownership level looking at this and saying, we can't fire another coach. Like, we're already paying the last one. Mm-hmm. That was a disaster. But there is seemingly a lot of, they also have like one of the longest tenured general managers who hasn't built a good football team. So, listen, their fans are going to believe that they're going to have a shot for this division. I think it's more likely that the Jets have a better record at the end of the season than the Dolphins. I think they've got a better coach. Wow. I think their quarterback is going to give him a chance, even though he's struggled passing the football, it looks like, in the last couple of practices. I just think it is a fuse. It's a California wildfire and someone just lit a garbage fire. Like that, it is so ready to blow.
Yeah.
And man, the popcorn I'm going to be eating when it does.
Anytime you need some energy, just get Nate Geary to talk about the Dolphins for you. That's what I just learned today, because that was.
We're up 8 more beats per second.
He went in. Yeah. All right, we'll hit a timeout here and get back to the Bills. Sal Capaccio, by the way, coming up at the top of the hour with us to talk more about this Kyren Williams contract, comparable to James Cook, and kick that around. And also, of course, talk about Hard Knocks debuting tonight at 9 p.m. on HBO Max. So Sal Capaccio coming up. Still time for you to call in between now and then if you want. 803-0550 is the number. He's Nate Geary sitting in for Mike Schopp along with Zach Jones. I'm the Bulldog, and this is WGR.
We've been living in sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to
Cruising
a
here
better
through a Tuesday
time.
afternoon. Nate Geary sitting in for Mike Schopp today. I'll be in here solo tomorrow. We got tomorrow Sal Capaccio and Mike Tanier, I believe.
Oh, I'm missing Mike Tanier?
You're missing Mike Tanier, yeah.
Can you tell him I say hi? He's my boy.
Yeah? All right.
my boy.
I will, and when he pretends he doesn't know you, that'll
He's
be
an OG.
awesome.
Like, he's,
right. He's a Sports Talk Saturday alum.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's like probably one of my first. Him and Mark Schofield are like my two.
Mark Schofield. I haven't thought about Mark Schofield.
You know, he does F1 now. That's why.
Right, okay. And he probably disappeared from Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like anybody with a half a brain has done.
If
they're allowed to.
If they can't. Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, I haven't thought about him in ages. That's why. That's how that goes. And I knew he was dabbling in F1. I didn't know that he's gone full on. That's good for him.
Yep, agreed.
Well, anyway, so that's the moving forward, what we've got. Sal, by the way, I mean, he's on tomorrow, but he's coming up in 10 minutes here with us as well. Jordan Addison suspended. That was expected.
Yep.
3 games.
Anytime the league wants to come out with their Rasheed Rice suspension, feel free.
What I was about to
They'll probably kick that another year.
I don't think so. I think the way that has been, like, I'm trying to think of who I really trust in this area. Is it Brett Coleman? There's someone that has been PFF or PFF adjacent. Drew Davenport is the name I think I want.
Okay.
Really into the legal end of all this stuff. I feel like the last update I saw from him about Rice was like it's probably going to be this year. Just a question of whether it's
if he's getting
3, 4, whatever.
Addison's getting 3 for substance. I've got to think Rasheed Rice has had
6.
multiple run-ins with the law. And this one was
speeding accident.
And in a league where you had Henry Ruggs, like, I think you got to maybe I'm saying this from the opposite end of the bias on this, because, you know, I'll think the league has a bias towards Kansas City. They should absolutely make an example of him. Will they? I doubt it. But that's to me.
But something's going to. It's going to be 4. I think at the least
6.
Is how I feel. But maybe it'll be
6.
as much
and
as 6.
Of course, there are rules with how long, based on the offense and how many.
Yeah,
I get it, but yeah.
So that's that. The other news today, we learned it together during the update at 4:30. Shedeur Sanders is starting the preseason game for the Browns.
Yeah.
They got a bubble wrap Joe Flacco. I thought everybody was hurt there, and Sanders was a part of that. That's why they just signed Tyler Huntley. I thought he had a shoulder problem, but they're saying he's going to start the game.
It's a good opportunity for Shedeur.
Yeah.
I think he needs to take it and run with it.
Yeah. I was not at all a big fan of his coming into the draft process. But
it all played out, I would agree. I think I did a little bit of a 180.
And I think the league smacked him.
Yeah.
For various reasons, maybe most notably he and his father challenging the patriarchy, but nonetheless,
maybe some deservedly so and others not. Yeah.
Right. But so I went from sort of being like, oh, enough with this guy to I think we've been too hard on this guy.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%.
I think he'll be the guy that plays by mid-season there.
Yeah.
Is what I would guess.
You know, sometimes I wonder when I come and do the show with you, and I'm like, is it good radio that I always agree with you? We agree a lot. Should we take the break and then find something we don't agree on and talk about it?
Yeah, let's fight.
Because I don't know that it's, I'm just like, oh, great point, Bulldog. I'm like the laugh dog here.
Well, that's okay.
That's what they can call me. That'll be my nickname for the show.
It feeds my ego. I don't know. Just be yourself. I've never wanted to. I do think that same thing often with Mike.
Yeah.
Because I know what the popular shows are people yelling at each other.
That's right.
With opinions that I'm pretty sure they don't really believe.
That's right.
So I've always just wanted to be honest and not have to force it. So whatever. If you're like-minded, it just means we're both brilliant.
Right. And I would say
that's fine.
Also, I try to tell people all the time, like, no, I am this annoying in real life.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. No question. I've been in social settings with Nate. Yes. Annoying is only the tip.
That's the tip of the iceberg.
We're
Right.
only
A lot
just
more
starting.
underneath the surface.
Let's
Yeah.
take a time out and leave plenty of time for our buddy Sal Capaccio. That's coming up right after this. He's Nate Geary sitting in for Mike today. I am the Bulldog, and this is WGR.
Off day today for the Buffalo Bills. They'll get back to it tomorrow, but today we'll get a word on the team with Sal Capaccio, who will be joining the show next, so do stay tuned for that. Also something to stay tuned for is the Bills edition of Hard Knocks, which premieres tonight at 9 p.m. over on HBO. A busy day, though, in the NFL. The Rams have signed running back Kyren Williams to a 3-year, $33 million contract, good for $11 million per year. Williams also got $23 million of this contract fully guaranteed. And this deal could play into the James Cook negotiations, as last season Williams rushed for just under 1,300 yards and 14 rushing touchdowns. Williams also was on the field for 87% of the Rams' offensive snaps. We also got some suspension news. Wide receiver for the Vikings, Jordan Addison, is going to miss the first 3 games of the 2025 regular season for violating the league's substance abuse policy, and then plenty of preseason news. The Bengals will be playing some of their starters on Thursday night. Head coach Zach Taylor did confirm quarterback Joe Burrow, among other big names, will play against the Eagles, but likely not past the first quarter. The Colts QB competition seems to be entering its next phase. Head coach Shane Steichen confirming Anthony Richardson is going to start this week versus the Ravens, while Daniel Jones will start next week versus the Packers. And then Mary Kay Cabot is reporting that the Browns are set to start Shedeur Sanders at quarterback Friday versus the Panthers. Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel both dealing with hamstring injuries. It's Padoc Chevrolet Sports Update. Padoc Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
All right, you heard the man. Sal Capaccio is on the Wester hotline with us here now. Nate Geary sitting in for Mike Schopp today. I am the Bulldog. Glad to have you along for the ride with us. And Sal, Hard Knocks tonight. We'll get to the Kyren Williams contract and if it means anything to James Cook and some of the national reporting. We touched on a little bit of it yesterday. But Hard Knocks. I know this is a show that it's football content. So I'm guessing you've been a big fan of it all these years. How cool is it to you that the Bills are being featured in Hard Knocks?
It's super cool from one standpoint that they're the team that everybody's going to be talking about, all eyes on them. They're relevant enough for that to happen, right? But at another point, it does kind of bring into, okay, what are the pitfalls here? What are the distractions that could derail them from what their ultimate goals are? And to be honest with you, they already have a lot of, eyeballs on them all the time. Do they really need something like this? I think about, what I said this morning, Bulldog, and when I was on, doing the Extra Point show is, I already see a lot of the stuff people are going to see on Hard Knocks. I don't see everything. I'm not saying that, but
right.
when they're going to be talking about all the stuff on the field and the interactions, like we as beat reporters, we see this every day. This isn't going to be new to us, right? So I think for me, I'm a tough person to ask because it's not going to shed any light on that stuff to me. But I will be interested in a lot of the off-field stuff that I don't get to see, that we're not privy to, and what they're going to be doing inside the dorm rooms and things like that. So I think there's such a different kind of perspective you get depending on what your lens you see the team is through.
Yeah. I like that answer. How noticeable has their presence been at camp so far?
Actually, so the presence has been very noticeable, but they're not intrusive whatsoever. They're actually great to work with, to be around, even to talk to once in a while. Like, you don't bother them necessarily, but if you have a question, they're very willing. Pat Harris is actually from Rochester. He's one of the main directors. He's been on WGR and WBEN. He's making the rounds, explaining a lot of the stuff that's going on. It's really cool. Got to meet him a little and talk to him a little bit. But, for the most part, you see them. You see the blue shirts. You see the blue T-shirts. Hard Knocks with the Buffalo Bills, HBO. You see the boom mics. You see the video cameras. But honestly, because it's training camp and there's cameras everywhere, you don't really notice them that much. John Scott, who came on today, WGRZ Channel 2, he has a different perspective than me because he's a TV guy and he's carrying a camera, right? And he said because he's a video guy and he's carrying a camera, he kind of notices them a little bit more than I might because I just see all these cameras around. That's normal.
Just another TV station, right? Yeah.
That's exactly right. Now, John, because he does TV and that's a competitive environment, he's noticing more cameras and more things that they might be shooting that maybe because there's so many, right? Like each TV outlet here in Buffalo's got one, maybe two cameras, but one camera who's watching something. Hard Knocks has 25 of them, and they're getting all this different stuff that they're shooting out there.
And I'm guessing that they're not as limited in what they can shoot, whereas the TV stations, there are some limitations, are there not?
Yes. No. They it's a good question. No, they do not shoot the periods that we don't shoot, I don't believe. Like, I'm not seeing them shoot 11 on 11. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's
gotcha.
I have to go back and think in my head, but like I would probably notice if they were doing more of that.
Okay, I gotcha. Is there a player that you would bet on that it's like not top of mind for the fan base? Mine is Steven Gosnell, the receiver out of Virginia Tech. I think his story is really compelling. Tore his knee up in their last game in the 23 season, rehabbed like crazy, was back to play in 24, went undrafted, caught the big long touchdown. The first long touchdown pass, I think, of camp was to him. And I feel like that's a guy that is like ready-made for the Hard Knocks story because, he's a long shot to make the team, but it's a compelling story. So that's my pick for like a dark horse guy whose name, most fans would be like, who's that guy? Do you have an idea for someone that might fit that profile?
Do I have to pick a guy who's more lesser known?
No.
Because I think the guy that fits all of this is Tre'Davious White. Mm-hmm. But I think it's more of a redemption story than it is what you just described, right?
Yep.
Like, this is a veteran who, had these two major injuries. It really impacted him, professionally and personally. We know that, the struggles he went through as well. He got released by this team, went to two different teams, played this team in the playoffs last year to go to the AFC Championship game. Now he's suddenly back. And, oh, by the way, after they sign him, they draft a first-round cornerback to maybe play over top of him. Now that cornerback is hurt. Now it's obviously part of the storyline that you couldn't predict. And then here's Tre'Davious White, this gregarious personality who really fits the camera. I think Tre'Davious White is perfect for the storyline of Hard Knocks.
Sal, how much do you think, and I do wonder, I don't know if you know this or if anyone really knows this, like what the cutoff time is for like what they're showing this week versus episode 2 versus episode 3?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Did I ask you this yesterday? I think I did.
Like, because
I don't know if you asked me, but Nate, I think I did talk about it today. I wondered out loud today too. Like, do we see the injury to Harrison? I think we do. But do we see the James Cook holding? Right? That's the thing that I'm wondering. I don't know if that gets into this episode. It might. Look, the technology they have now is amazing, this turnaround time they have with all these things that they're filming and the audio, and they can get this really turned around really, really quickly. So I would not be surprised if it's something at the end that they don't go too far in, but it's a great teaser for the next episode.
Storm clouds or something, right? Brewing, right? Like that's Owen made the same point to me because I asked him, like, do you know if you heard or read? Because I feel like at some point I did see, like, whether it's like Friday or Saturday is like a cutoff for a Tuesday episode, but I can't say 100% that's right. So I wondered kind of the same thing. When I brought this up to Owen, he said, it'll just be the thing at the end. It'll be like, everything's been going great all episode with James Cook, but now dun, dun, dun. Right? Here's some dark clouds and some thunder or whatever. That seems like something that we should at least see that, if not more than that, because, again, we're not sure when there is a cutoff. So I'm curious just how I did read today about who did you mentioned the name of the director that's in charge. That's
Pat Harris.
Pat Harris,
yep.
Yeah. I read a profile with him from, I think it was Sal Capaccio that I read about him, and how, like, when McDermott found out that the guy grew up in Rochester and he came to training camp, as a fan years ago, felt like, okay, he understands, how we do this and what's important to Bills fans, and like felt a lot more comfortable, I think, with the idea that the guy would have, maybe better intentions than someone who wasn't a Bills fan growing up might have. Because I think that's absolutely a thing organizationally you want to try to avoid, right? Is nobody wants to look stupid in this thing.
No, but the Bills have content control here too. I mean, the Bills are gonna have say over what gets aired, and I think quite a bit of say actually. So I think they're gonna try to protect themselves, of course, and I think they would want what you said is completely right, which is they're not going to want to have anything out there that makes them look foolish in any way, shape, or form. But B, they don't want proprietary information out there, right? Meaning things that they believe are competitive advantages for them, things that they do, things that they say, words, the way that they run certain drills or meetings. I think all of those things have to be kind of, negotiated or talked about, and what Hard Knocks wants. So sure, like, you're not going to want to show, I think, the juicy stuff. I think, back in years past when Hard Knocks first started, and HBO kind of had control over everything back then. Maybe they didn't. Maybe it was very little for the team.
Yeah.
But it was like, let's get to juicy storylines and let's get it out there. And yeah, you want to highlight some really cool stuff, but then there comes a time where it's going to be about, some negativity that's out there, and people latched onto that. I think because of the blowback of certain, seasons and episodes and things that have happened, and the way teams can kind of structure their own like embedded or whatever else they have going on, that's become something different. And I think because of really what happened last year with the Giants too, that's even become more aware. Like, HBO and NFL Films wants teams to want to be on Hard Knocks. Nobody wants to be, because of those things that happened. So that's why they kind of had to expand the rules, and they chose the Bills. And I do want to reiterate here that Hard Knocks chose the Bills. The Bills did not choose Hard Knocks, right? Like, the Bills did not want to be on Hard Knocks. It doesn't mean they're not a workable partner.
Right, and cooperative and whatever. But yeah,
right, exactly. From everything I've heard, from everything I've seen, it's been a really good relationship between the two sides. But don't forget, the Bills did not want to do this.
Sal, I won't pretend that the complexities of anything more than what's been reported, or even to know what James Cook is thinking here. But we had been talking. I know you talked about this a little this morning too. Just like kind of the confusing aspect of showing up to camp, starting camp, and then 8 days in deciding to hold in. I'm wondering, in your opinion, because again, I don't know that you would know anything that he's thinking or his agent's thinking, but I would be, if I were a betting man, which sometimes I am, I'm not sure we see a hold in from James Cook if the Hard Knocks cameras aren't around. It just, I don't know, and maybe that's just where my head is, and maybe you'll think differently on this, Sale, but I'm having, guys, I think a little of it too is like, I'm trying to figure out what the game plan here is, because it doesn't seem like there's a cohesive one from his side, or at least, like, if you're going to have a plan to hold in, wouldn't you have done it day one and not played 8 practices and risk injury, and now, kind of say, well, this is a business decision. Well, what changed in the first, week and a half of practice to now?
It's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. All I can do is speculate. Hard Knocks could very well be a piece of it. Well, you know what? There's cameras there. Let's make a statement. Let's get on there and let's show everybody we mean business. Maybe his agent decided that. There also could be the fact that he's seen a bunch of injuries around the team.
Yeah.
Right. And I respect that, which is, hey, we've seen a rash of injuries here. The agent goes, I don't want you to be the next one, man. Like, you're trying to have this contract. Look at these guys. Khalil Shakir's out week to week. Max Harrison, look what happened to him. Like, it happened right after those 2 injuries, right? And where he decided this. That could be something that plays into it. It could be that he showed up. They did it out of good faith and said, hey, we're going to show up. We're going to negotiate. Let's get this ball rolling. Maybe it just never progressed to the point where they felt comfortable enough. And his agent said, you know what? We're going to have to make a stand now. We're going to stand on business and say, we're going to have to do something to show you that we're not happy, because obviously what we've done so far has not gotten us to move the needle a little bit. I think it could be a whole number of things, to be honest with you. I don't know. I agree with you. I'm confused on it because we don't know anything about that. Maybe at some point James Cook will tell us, whether that's when he has a contract or doesn't, or however this gets resolved. Maybe James Cook will tell us, why he decided to do it on day number 9 of training camp.
And that's why, Sal, I don't know that I'm buying the Rossini and Pelissero and Rappaport reports that, this thing's actually really close, and maybe this is why that to me, Jay, that wouldn't really line up with, I think I agree more with you that this is more of this isn't going the way we want to. It's more so getting further apart. And then, as we said, Brandon Beane, I can't imagine too many times is going to Rossini and Rappaport and dropping nuggets to them. That's usually coming from the agent's side, right, at least historically.
I agree with that. What do you guys always talk about, Mike and Chris? What do you always talk about, Bulldog? Which is who is benefiting by having this information?
Exactly, right.
What's the answer to that? That's the agent here, right? I would think. I think it's the agent here.
Because I think the agent and the player would think, for whatever it's worth. I mean, you got to play whatever card you've got, and a card they have is to start this hold-in now, and then get reporters saying it's close. I think when fans hear reporters indicating that something is close, then the pressure reverts to the team. Like normally the fans, very curiously to me, usually side with the team in any contract squabble. They love the players, but the minute a guy wants to get paid, then it's trouble time, especially if he's got an existing contract, et cetera, right? You signed it, all that sort of stuff. But you start to hear that it's close, and then I think a fan would go, oh, come on, Bills, right? He scored 16 touchdowns, figure it out.
Just do it. Yeah.
So, I mean, again, I don't know. I think we did get into this yesterday with you, Sal. I did. I don't mean to impugn the reporting of any of the people that Nate mentioned, right? But I would wonder where it's coming from too, because Bean, not that he usually isn't very close to the vest, anyways. But he didn't sound really any different to my ears yesterday than he did in April talking about this.
Agreed. It sounded very similar to everything he said all the way back to the combine and the owners' meetings in February and March. And then, of course, we get to April and there's, workouts, and that's when he spoke again about James not being there. And he's had the same messaging consistently throughout, which is we love James Cook. He always says it. He always starts with, we love Jimbo. We love James Cook. We want him here a long time. We want to keep him in a Buffalo Bills uniform. It takes two to make an agreement. And what does he always else does he say? Which is when you have a quarterback, you're paying the money you're paying him, and the offensive tackles and edge rusher, you have to somehow figure out where to spend a lot of your resources and allocations. And, obviously they haven't been able to work that out. And he says it takes two. When he says it takes two, that's kind of a signal to me that we think we've come up to where we need to come up to. They haven't been able to do that on their part, so it's business. And Brandon Beane doesn't begrudge James Cook for wanting more money. He doesn't begrudge James Cook for, doing what he, trying to make as much money as possible. He understands the way the business works. But it was interesting. He also said, this is my 9th year and it's the first time this has happened. So it's disappointing for me. He used those words. So I think Brandon Beane is obviously disappointed that James Cook is not on the field right now.
All right. Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline with us for just a few more minutes. The Bills back to it tomorrow. Who will we hear from tomorrow? We're going to get McDermott because the preseason game is looming on Saturday, and I feel like the next time he talks is going to be the time that people are going to start asking him about playing time.
I'm sorry. What was the exact question? I'm sorry. Just about, do we know about playing time? Is that what you asked me? I'm sorry.
Will we find out about playing time tomorrow? Is McDermott talking tomorrow? If he's not, then I don't think we will. But
so this has gone different ways in years past, Bulldog. Sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we do this week. Sometimes we don't find out until basically the night before, maybe in a production meeting, but that's really proprietary information just so we can prepare for a broadcast. Sometimes you find out the morning of, sometimes we don't find out until they hit the field. I'm not kidding. It's gone a different way a lot of times. So we don't know. He did say the other day that he was still undecided on if Josh Allen will play. So we'll see. They did put out a depth chart today. I don't know if you guys saw that. They did put out a depth chart today.
I did. The thing I know, I've been looking at an Our Lads depth chart all through camp here that it had Elijah Moore listed behind Josh Palmer on the depth chart. Today, he was behind Khalil Shakir on the depth chart. on the Bills depth chart. And I thought that was interesting. While Shakir is out, does that indicate an opportunity for Elijah Moore to work in the slot and see if that's where he can carve out a role, as a complement to Shakir or something? Obviously, he's not going to supplant Shakir if he's healthy as this team's slot receiver, but I kind of wonder about that.
Yeah, it's a good observation. I wonder as well. They have also KJ Hamler listed there. Jalen Virgil's an outside guy. I think he has a little bit of slot flexibility there. Curtis Samuel's listed outside, but he's not going to – I can imagine he'd be ready to play by Saturday. He hasn't practiced in a while. That's the other part about this, which is, how many guys you have to have to play? All the guys that are missing that have been out. even if Josh Allen plays, at least you do have your entire offensive line intact except for Spencer Brown. I mean, you're going to put Spencer Brown out there after 3 days of practice? I'm not sure. So, you would put Josh out there. You'd have probably Ryan Vandermark or Tylan Grable, which is fine. But you don't have to think about these things if you're Sean McDermott. Who's available to you and what the ripple effect is around the team. So, it's going to be really interesting. One of the big things I noticed about the depth chart is they actually have a backup kicker, number 22, Ray Davis.
Right. Off of his outstanding performance at the return of the blue and red practice.
And is this a spot where I can am I allowed to tell everybody and show everybody that Brandon Codrington is listed as the main punt returner and kick returner? Can I do that?
That's right.
Am I allowed here?
I mean, it's your time, Sal.
Okay. No surprise, but we know how I feel about that, which is I've never felt him being in danger to make the team. I mean, certainly anything is possible, and it could come down to that. And they have because of the injuries, they could. I'm going to say that because of the injuries, it could have to save a roster spot at some point. But I've always felt Brandon Codrington was on this team as the punt returner, and he would be one of the 2 kick returners. And they have Laviska Shenault listed as the second kick returner here. And then yesterday's injury to Balen Spector, guys. He has a calf injury now, and we've all said it, which is the availability has been an issue for Balen Spector. And Balen Spector is listed as a backup will linebacker. How about this? I got to go back and say this. The Bills have 3 linebackers listed on their depth chart.
They do. Yeah.
They also have a nickel corner in Taron Johnson. They have 12 guys listed on defense. They have 3 linebackers and a nickel corner. So I think that's really interesting. And Balen Spector is listed behind Dorian Williams, who's the 3rd linebacker behind Milano and Bernard. But I think now, with everything that's happened, I think the door is wide open for Joe Andreessen to absolutely just smash it down to be the backup Mike.
I also think it's interesting that Shenault is listed as the 3rd guy on the punt return depth chart because he's never returned a punt. I don't even know if he did it in college. That doesn't mean he can't be working on it in training camp here, obviously, to see if he could do it, but he's never returned a single punt in the NFL. So he is not...
Or college, I don't think.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure that's right, too. Yeah. So that is not someone who I would expect a team with Super Bowl aspirations to be trusting with their punt return job. He'd have to make it as a receiver / kick returner, and I don't know, it's a pretty crowded
The
field
only person that people brought up to me that I could give a little bit of, okay, I could see it if it get to that, would be Elijah Moore, because Elijah Moore's done it, and if you have to find a spot, and because of the injuries, like, hey, we're gonna keep this guy. Right. But again, I don't know how much that has to impact. I think Codrington's kind of in his own boat. It's like, look, this is the guy that does this, and he's really good at it, and we're gonna keep him on the team, and whatever else happens, other positions happen in other positions, but this is the guy we're keeping in this spot.
Sal, I meant to ask you, and I made a note to make sure I asked you today. On Sunday when I was there, when we were sitting down, I wanted to ask you about it. It just slipped my mind. Watching and kind of going through some of the practice notes from, Matt Marino, the other beat writers, and then seeing some stuff at Cover One and Anthony Prohaska, who's been like basically at every practice. Without asking you to tell us too much about like the stuff you're not supposed to tell us about, what I guess broadly wanted to ask you is, have you noticed or have you felt the presence of Ryan Nielsen being a part of this defensive coaching staff in some of the things you're seeing them try to do defensively that might be different this year than the last couple of years, and even last year under Bobby Babbitt? You're still running Sean McDermott's defense. I guess where I'm coming from is the excitement of some of the blitz packages and what they're showing pre to post snap is a little bit more into Nielsen's background, which is, 5-6 guys lining up at the line of scrimmage and you don't know who's coming and who's going, and the simulated blitzes and all that. Like, have you noticed that out there? Like, this new coach that comes from a blitzing background, have you noticed that presence out there and what they're trying to do?
Yes. I would say more so, though, not as much that, which I have noticed that. And by the way, it can go both ways. They did one of those deals you're talking about the other day, and Keon Coleman got loose on a busted coverage because they came off the corner. And like that's what you risk when you do that. But yes, I mean that you want to see that. You got to play with that stuff now. That's why you do it, right? Yep. Which is fine. I'm not criticizing it all. I'm just saying that it can be risky to do that stuff. He's not calling the defense. Bobby Babbitt is, but I do think that he has put his imprint on ways that you could move guys around, and maybe that's why we're seeing a little bit of a 3 linebacker depth chart, right? Sure. That's why that's happening. Here's where I really see Ryan Nielsen, though, when I watch him, and people have commented this to me who've been at practice that I know, which is, boy, he's really good at showing guys where to place their hands, the teaching, the technique. He reminds me a lot of Aaron Kromer. Aaron Kromer is great at that. Aaron Kromer is a great teacher. He's a great technician. Listen to any offensive lineman. Connor McGovern raves about him. All his offensive linemen do. Eric Wood will always say how great of a teacher he is. I think Ryan Nielsen is cut from that cloth. Ryan Nielsen, he was working with Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa's put in time in this league. In case you didn't know, he's really good at what he does, right? And he was just working on really subtle things with Joey about his hands and how to turn his shoulders. And I'm like, that's a guy talking, he's not afraid to talk to a guy who has put together, I guess, basically a Hall of Fame resume, right, without looking at it. But a guy that's one of the best in the league over a generation getting to the quarterback here, that's a coach that's not afraid and not intimidated and not shy about teaching him. Because I always say Tiger Woods, even at the peak of his career, had a hitting coach or had a golf coach. I mean, that's what you do. If you want to be better, people have to look at things you're doing and saying, hey, we can do this better, we can do that better. And that's where I really like what I've seen from Ryan Nielsen.
Sal, thanks a lot for this. We got to go. I'll look forward to talking with you tomorrow.
You got it.
All right, that is Sal Capaccio. Training camp coverage here on WGR from St. John Fisher University is brought to you by Fiegel Car and Joyce, your border attorneys. By Outlet Liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy. Case, what's your outlet? By Connors and Ferris, your workers' comp attorneys. And driven by your Upstate Honda dealers. For great deals on the entire Honda lineup, visit your Upstate Honda dealer today. I want to pick up on the question you asked Sal about Ryan Nielsen and about this defense, maybe adding some wrinkles and facets that we haven't seen a lot of over the years with Sean McDermott and now Bobby Babich running the defense. So we'll get into that more as we go. Nate Geary is in for Mike. I'm the Bulldog, and this is WGR. I so badly want to be able to get his running mate, but I don't think I'm going to get it. But if I talk about how big Frank Minifield's shoulder pads were on Tecmo Super Bowl, all right, maybe I'll kill enough time for it to pop in to my brain. Who's that other guy? Hanford Dixon.
Correct.
I love this job.
Hanford Dixon.
Oh, I hurt myself celebrating.
Celebrating.
There was a
we've all seen it.
There was a leg up and an arm and there was a whole bunch of stuff going on there. Oh, I'm hurt now.
I'm glad I didn't blurt it out.
Hanford Dixon. I don't even care what happens the rest of the segment. You want to talk about Marcus Welby some more?
It could happen. Could come up.
Remember, I
in studio tomorrow for one of our favorite days, April Fool's Day. I wonder if those chairs in that conference room down the hall will be completely just moved.
850 is the number. Let's squeeze Luke in here in this first segment. Hi, Luke. Thanks for calling. You're on WGR.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Just wanted to kind of get your opinion on Ryan Reeves. He's on waivers. Maybe we bring him in. He's 2 hours away. Sell some tickets. Elevate the team a little bit. What do you think?
I think that's one of the worst ideas I've ever heard. Thank you for calling.
Room tomorrow. What do you think the chances of that are? Shh. I know, brilliant, right? He said the one time, so he walks, so do I, during breaks, just stretch the legs. And he was saying about how he walked into that conference room, just sort of takes a loop, but it started to bother him that the chairs were not perfectly situated. Like, they were just a little bit not perfectly back together. The family at the restaurant just left, and the staff isn't back yet to sort of redress the scene. So what did he say? Like, he would put the chairs back, or he didn't even want to go in there anymore because the chairs weren't like properly. So I haven't told anybody this yet, but for like the last 2 months, once or twice a week, I'll just go down there and move all the chairs around. I've been a little bit wondering if, like, hey, welcome back. You good?
I'm shook is what I am. Do you want me to tell the whole? You've opened the door, buddy. Here it comes. So I walk around during the breaks, and we don't have the biggest office, the biggest floor, but and I could go out. I have a way to get in and out, but I do laps around our offices during the breaks, and a part of that is there's a large conference room with, 15, 16 chairs around it, big table. We have meetings in there sometimes, and that's like the end of my loop. I loop through that room or walk around the table and then come back here. And I got in the habit, when I was doing this in the winter, of tucking the chairs into the table, in part because I'm a lunatic and I like to have everything look symmetrical, and so I want the chairs to but it's also to protect myself. At 5 o'clock on a Wednesday in the winter, it's dark in there. And if I go walking through there, it's pitch dark, the shades are closed, I'm going to trip and fall on a chair that's askew. So
terrible.
I've gotten in the habit of tucking the chairs in. So, 45 minutes ago, I took this walk, and I went through that room, and I didn't have to tuck any chairs in, and it's not as big an issue now because it's light out until we're off the air.
You can see your way around.
I can see my way around if there's something in my way. But everything was neat. Like, all the chairs were tucked in. It was fine. I didn't have to move anything, and I just walked through and came back. And then just now at 4:58 or whenever we went to break, I got up and walked around, did the same loop.
But for the Bills, an off day today. They'll get back to work tomorrow. Today, though, is the start of their edition of Hard Knocks. It premieres at 9 p.m. over on HBO. The Rams have signed running back Kyren Williams. It is a 3-year, $33 million deal, good for $11 million per year. $23 million of that contract is guaranteed, and this deal could play into the James Cook negotiations. Last year, Williams rushed for just under 1,300 yards and had 14 rushing touchdowns. He also was on the field for 87% of the Rams' offensive snaps. Vikings wide receiver Jordan Addison, he's suspended the first 3 games of the 2025 regular season for violating the league's substance abuse policy, and then plenty of preseason news. A lot of starters will be playing. The Bengals, one of those teams, Thursday night, they will go and get the preseason underway. Head coach Zach Taylor confirmed that quarterback Joe Burrow and other big names will play against the Eagles, likely not past the first quarter. The Colts QB competition entering its next phase. Head coach Shane Steichen confirming Anthony Richardson is going to start this week versus the Ravens. Daniel Jones will get next week versus the Packers. And then Mary Kay Cabot reporting the Browns will go with Shedeur Sanders at quarterback Friday versus the Panthers. Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel dealing with hamstring injuries. That's Padoc Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Padoc Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
And they would, according to this, like to be referred to as Bulldog's bullpen, which is the people in the chat.
What is? Oh, I see.
In YouTube. It was the.
I'm not sure we're sanctioning that name. Richardson, the off-season story arc has been pretty compelling.
Interest is peaked.
It is not, it's not our team. It's not a team that's really in the Bills' hair at all. They're not a contender. But, this show, Mike and I were both big fans of him coming out in the draft.
Mike was a big fan of him.
Me too. Yeah. I said I would have taken him 101 myself. So, yeah. But shoulder soreness in the spring, and it sounds like maybe he's damaged in some permanent way, and just weird that the team is being so honest about it. Now he's starting the first preseason game. It feels like they've like rediscovered sanity, because Daniel Jones is a horrible idea. Anthony Richardson might also be a horrible idea. But you
didn't spend the 5th overall pick.
You should continue seeing how horrible of an idea it could become by continuing to play him. I think you have to. The only problem there is the guy just so daffy, to take himself out of a game and not understand why that's a problem. I've wondered this from the moment that happened. Not to overstate that one situation, that one decision that he made. But it's the kind of thing that makes you wonder, if he doesn't know how that works, how much other stuff within football that is assumed does he not understand? And that guy probably can't be your quarterback.
No, but I also think, like, you absolutely, I am not here thinking Daniel Jones is the next Sam Darnold. Like, that he's going to be one of these reclamation projects.
Me either.
The Geno Smiths of the world that were with bad organizations, and now they are finally in, somebody believes in him and stability and weapons, and boom, he's, getting a $50 million contract over the next. Like, I don't see that with Daniel Jones. He's not good. So if the Colts do decide Daniel Jones is our week 1 starter, that is, you should cut Anthony Richardson or trade him. Get anything for him. Because you have declared it's over.
Yeah,
it's done.
Yeah.
So to your point, I think you have to basically do everything you can to see, even if it's 5 weeks, 6 weeks, can he work?
Yeah.
Because I think you owe it to the fans. I think you owe it as a franchise to say, we spent a huge...
Yeah.
And even a little bit of like how Carolina played the Bryce Young thing last year, I didn't agree with it at all. But it ended up turning out to be, I think, the one thing that sparked him. Now, I'll say this about Bryce Young. I don't know that there are a lot of young quarterbacks that would have handled it the way that he did. And a lot of that, he's coming from the Saban, and he's coming from... That guy's been coached over the course of his career. He's not... with Anthony Richardson, he just... To me, it's a lot like Trey Lance, where you just don't have a big enough body of work. And these organizations that take players like that, to not have the patience when you knew this guy had the second least amount of starts in the last 20 years to go in the top 5 at quarterback, like... That's on you, man. Like, you got to know. You have to come pre-packaged with a level of patience you wouldn't have with other players. Right. And San Francisco just immediately bailed on the whole Trey Lance idea. Like, it was just, he started one game in the mud, and then the next game he broke his leg, and they were like, yeah, this guy stinks. And it was like, well, what do you mean he stinks? You drafted him, handpicked. He played in one game, and he stinks? Come on. Like... And that's just what it was. Like, he just...
Well, it wasn't just that he stunk, but Brock Purdy showed up, and like that...
For sure, but
that's it. So
even so, I'm still thinking like, hey, Brock Purdy, you'll get your chance, man, but like, I need to just make sure that that guy isn't in there. And, I think recency bias across the league, especially a quarterback... Anthony Richardson was selected because of Josh Allen's success.
Sure.
And Daniel Jones is probably going to got this opportunity not because of what he's shown in the last 2 years, which has been one of the worst quarterbacks in the league,
but because of Sam Darnold. Right. Yeah. Yeah, the league always does that. I would go so far as to say that if Anthony Richardson hadn't turned into the disaster he's been the first 2 years in the league, that Jalen Milroe would have been a top 10 pick. Like that's him on paper, and he's got all the football acumen you could possibly want, right? The guy's like a coach's dream.
I really loves Jalen Milroe.
But I think, the accuracy problems, mechanics, all this stuff that got in the way. The Josh Allen comp Just like, oh, Anthony Richardson happened. No.
Big arm, runs.
I think Milroe's going to play this year at some point.
Do we?
Right? Isn't it the way that's trending? Camp has been going really well for him, I think. Sorry, I love Jalen Milroe.
Christmas gift, or is it a Jalen Milroe jersey?
We could do that.
Yeah.
We could definitely do that.
That means a Seahawks jersey?
Yeah.
Yeah, give me one of those green ones.
Yeah, like the.
I was just about to ask, do we want home, road, alternate?
Yeah,
okay, toxic green jerseys.
Yeah, toxic green jersey. My big dumb red face would look great on the camera with that toxic green jersey.
Christmas time too.
Really
wow,
good.
yes, you'd look kind of like a Christmas tree.
Yeah. No, that's not a green. That's not a Christmas green.
You could make it work.
That's a green. What did you feed your kid? Green.
To answer your question about to I guess respond to your statement that hey, he's probably going to play. He probably will, but I also think Sam Darnold. I think it has to go really bad there, and it might.
He's going to get his face torn off.
But
playing in Seattle, I think
maybe not. I mean, I like his weapons. They talking about this kid that they drafted, Horton. I think that looks really good, and Cooper Kupp's there. He'll still get open, and JSN is.
Yeah,
he's darn good.
I'm just not sure they are going to be able to keep him upright, but
maybe not. Maybe not.
Who knows?
And he definitely does not have Kevin O'Connell.
And I'm definitely someone who would be forcing the Jalen Milroe agenda.
Okay?
I had a bet with Mike that he would be a top 10 pick. Right? Was it top 10? I think it was top 10.
I think maybe when he comes back.
I think the bet was top 15.
Top 15?
But you were pretty bullish there.
I was pretty bullish there for a while. Yeah, it
didn't work.
It didn't get there.
It didn't happen. That story's not over yet. Though.
No.
Yeah.
No, I think he's got every chance to be the best quarterback out of that draft still, I think.
So, I mean, talking about quarterbacks, there's a preseason game coming up. Is there a real competition between Trubisky and Mike White?
I hope so.
I would hope so too. I think Trubisky's...
I don't want to see Trubisky throw a pass that matters ever again in my life.
Yeah.
In a Bills uniform. I just don't. I have zero faith in him.
I will say.
Zero.
If a guy like Anthony Richardson all of a sudden loses that job in Indianapolis, I'm all over that. What do you want, a 7th round pick? Could you imagine Richardson because here's the thing.
I'm lining him up in the backfield on these quarterback sneaks, or I'm lining him up under center with Allen
next
and
to Allen
or whatever.
Yes.
Oh my God.
100%.
That's
been my idea.
It moved. Yeah, no, that is that's hot.
Yeah.
That's
I love that idea because it's better than. And no offense to Shane Bichelle, but when I was at training camp, I know you haven't been there in a few years, but I saw Shane Bichelle at training camp, and I was like, I did one of those like the Josh Allen thing.
Now watch your tone when you're talking about Bichelle.
Looking at look, who's that in the back of the jersey? Shane Bichelle looks like a punter. I was like, I'm bigger than he is. I could have.
Oh yeah.
And then obviously I got out on the field. I'm sure you guys.
Guy catches one field
goal snap,
and now he wants to replace the Bills' fourth quarterback.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys saw.
Congratulations to you. That was well done. Good of Reed Ferguson to be a good sport about it.
It's been a big athletic week for me.
Yeah,
it's been a big.
Well, good.
And you know what?
Why? What else happened? Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So
you won some golf thing.
Here's how the story goes. By the way, so he went on a podcast, same one I go on, and he was like, "Hey, stop ducking me. I'm coming for you this year." So I'm on. I got Marino and I got Prohaska on with me, and they're both looking at me. Marino's looking over my shoulder. I'm like, "What are you guys talking?" And it's just Reed with a ball. He's like, "There's a field right here." And I was like, "Yeah, but I would really rather do it out in front of everyone. I want everyone to see it." And he was like, "All right, man, whatever." And I was like, "All right, let me go to break." So we broke early. I ran out there. And he gave me. I said, "Don't take it easy. I don't want a lofter. I want your snap to the long."
He spun it. Yeah.
Like I said,
it was money.
It's like riding a bike.
And no gloves.
Gloves.
Do holders wear gloves?
No,
they don't. Do they?
No.
Why?
You gotta have the feel.
Yeah.
You gotta have the feel, and apparently also what I didn't know is long snappers, they actually, the way they hold the ball, they can get it back to the holder so that they literally just have to do this. The laces are already out. But I just wanted to show people that I had the wherewithal.
You did spin it. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did a good job. All right, he's Nate Geary, and for Mike, I'm the Bulldog. This is WGR.
That was an official workshop.
I guess
I did just workshop.
I mean, it's their thing. I guess they can really do whatever they want.
Right. You don't necessarily get to sign off.
I don't get to say. Yeah, that's probably right.
But
I will step aside. I didn't mean for my ego to get in the way. Go ahead, please. There were like 10 chairs as askew in there as I've ever seen. Like somebody was sitting and just pushed the chair as far and as hard as they could away from the table and left the room. 10 different people did this in that room. And there are, 8 people here right now?
I'm not sure there are that many.
I mean, you got us
there are
3.
4 of us.
There's Puckett's out there. There's Brayton out there. A couple of other dudes. Producer for Bowerly's show. There's definitely
10.
less than 10.
Okay.
What happened between 4:15 and 5 o'clock? Like, did everyone show up for a meeting and just wreck the room? I mean, wreck the room's a little strong, and then just leave
on a Friday? I doubt it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of sunny. Well, I just have no idea. I feel like someone who knows that I do that with the chairs is messing with me. But there's nobody here. There are a couple of women who work down at that end of the building that I have confided in them that I have a thing about the chair. I tuck the chair. I want the chairs to look nice. And they kid me about it when they see me. They're not here every day. But when they see me, they smile and laugh and like, there he goes to fix his chairs or
Allie?
whatever. Yeah, Allie.
Samantha?
Yes. And so they're not here.
No
one's here. Like, I could see Allie wanting to mess with me that way.
Really?
Yeah.
She doesn't seem that type to me.
She has made she makes fun of me in a fun, good-natured way about this, that I take this walk and that I have this chair thing.
Well, you may know her better than I do, but sometimes people have that and you don't know it. That sort of capacity.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if she were here. I would have thought, why did you do that to the chair? I would have immediately accused her of messing with the chairs.
You sort of want to right now anyway, even though she's not. You haven't seen her.
Right. I don't understand. Like, what happened to those chairs? Who moved those chairs? Who was in there? I mean,
there's really no chance there was a meeting.
No. If everyone who's here in the building right now went down there, including us, and left the chairs like that, that's the only explanation I have. And I know we didn't do that. I don't believe any of the people that are working in the newsroom went and did that. What the hell happened?
I don't know. What would make the most sense?
It wasn't just one chair either. It literally was like 10 chairs were just all over the place in there. I mean, as far away from the table as the walls would allow them to be is where the chairs were. And I just, I stood in the doorway like, how? Why?
You'd been there. You'd been there an hour ago.
Not even an hour ago.
And then you went back.
Yeah. And there's no one here. I'm
ghosts.
I am shook by this. Honest to God, I do not understand what just happened.
What would be the likeliest scenario? Something happened.
Yeah.
There was no meeting. There's no way the big shots are coming in to have a meeting, and they wouldn't even do that anyway. I feel like most of the people we work for would put the chairs back. You know, like you're taught to do. Like you're taught to do.
I can tell you.
Not.
I can tell you that does not happen.
Okay, maybe not. But they're not in the building.
Yeah, and
so that's out.
And this was way more aggressive than it. Normally, there'd be like a chair or two that might be in my way that I could trip on if it were dark, and I got to tuck it in. Mm-hmm. This again was like 10 of the chairs were just like, what's even happening?
I don't know.
It would not have been. Given the state of the room, it would not have been surprising to see one of the chairs on the table. Literally, that's how messed up the room was.
You know, I hadn't thought of that one.
So I just don't have any idea what could have happened.
I should have thought of that one.
Did you go down there during a break and move the chairs?
I've been doing it every day. And last week, right, Zach? One day, I talked about it.
Wait, this is
real. The audience knows.
Oh, you guys are the best.
I was so worried I missed your live reaction when I had to do my update. I was very nervous I missed your live reaction.
I couldn't look at you. I was staring at my phone
I
when you were
walked
telling
in
me what
and
happened.
stood at the door. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't even sit down.
You
I couldn't
couldn't
even
even
get
sit.
in the room. I'm just
No.
like, how many people are, I'm yelling, how many people are in here right now? 8 of us?
I try
you are.
since you haven't said anything. Like it's just for me, just also getting up and walking around. But I try to put the chairs in and spread them out in a certain way that makes it impossible to understand. Like the chairs are touching each other face to face or back to back, all the way in the corner.
Yes.
Today I put one that's like facing right down
Happy
at the garbage
to have you
can.
with us here on a
So you'd
Tuesday.
be like
Nate
sitting
Geary
right up
in
on
for
top
Mike
of the
show
garbage
today.
can.
Your big athletic accomplishment that I sort of blew off in the last segment was quite notable. Between you and Jer, somehow Jeremy White and a member at Transit Valley won a member guest there. Jeremy shot 37 on the back 9 of the final round, which is incredible. Somehow he and Sneaky Joe DiBiase lost to me and my kid on the 4th of July at Delaware Park. I think Jer was a little he'd been out the night before.
Sure.
Where I took the competition very seriously and did not have any beers on the 3rd of July, even though the 4th of July was a day off. You won at Wanaka?
Yeah, Wanaka. Yeah. Really a very difficult tournament. It's just hard. You have to qualify for your championship flight. It's 4 days. You have to shoot a combined 66, which is what we did. And then we still had to do a play-in to get into the championship flight. We got in. Then you have to play 36 holes, two 18-hole matches Friday, 18-hole match Saturday, and then you have to win 4 matches and shoot a 66 or better. I just was a tournament that I never thought we'd ever have a chance of winning.
But you did.
And we beat the team that won it last year. Chris Cavelli and his partner, he's a plus handicap. Like he is.
It's not the kind of thing you can win being carried by the other guy. Like you
have to play.
Right.
And like, yeah, it was. We were down 3 through 9, and my partner missed a putt to get it to 2 on 9, like a 3-footer. Like should have hit it, didn't make it, and it just felt like. And our boy, James Roberts, is the chef there.
Right.
So he's waiting for us on the 9th. He's like, I got some food. I made some, and he's like, oh, you guys don't look like you're too happy right now.
Yeah.
So we sat down. We needed, it was slow because it's the last day. It's championship. And so, we waited 20 minutes before we teed off, and we went birdie, 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 birdie. And all of a sudden, it was tied.
And was there some crawfish from James? Food from James that did the trick. I'm glad you mentioned him. Miss the old two-taunt, of course. All right, timeout at hand. What's the latest on the Dolphins? Marcel Louis-Jacques spent some years here as the Bills beat guy for ESPN. He's now doing that gig in Miami covering the Dolphins. That's up next here on WGR.
Busy day today in the NFL. We'll get to that